Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Introduction to Hollywood podcast. Ooh,
did you just say podcast conference?
It's Friday because we podcast on Friday.
It's a podcast.
We have a Ladies Tale podcast on Friday.
/ how to get your book published, because you know us now, we like to combine two things that sometimes people don't think about it together. I'm Jade, and that's Winona, and let's get this party started
with our first speaker, Sophie. Because she's in France, I'm not messing it up. Sophie, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself and then tell us a bit about your subject? I know I gave you a subject. I just don't remember what it is right now.
Hello, my name is Sophie, but you gave me two subjects as well.
Of course I did.
But I'm going to try to keep it really straightforward. So the first subject you asked me was the beginning of my career as assistant producer. And what does it take to actually be behind, a show and, and how you work it. And the second subject is I adapted a book into a screenplay, a published book into a screenplay. So I don't know which subject you're more interested in. Please let me know.
Both. Why not?
Oh. Give us 3 from each. That'll be a total of 6.
And you hold up 10?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Which subject? Well, you're more interested. Can you hear me?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So in terms of producing a show, what a producer's point of view is always, well, is he going to get his money back? Is he going to make money? Are people interested in the subject? But also when they look at someone new, because I think in our audience, it would be people quite new and they are looking for something that is quite small budget. Because if you're writing something that doesn't cost a lot, you'll be more looked at that if you write something that costs a lot. And I've got the experience of that, and I'm gonna that will jump on my other subject. I adapted a screenplay from a book called Elixir Project, written by Kari Oberbrunner. It's a brilliant book. It's a science fiction book, and everybody in Hollywood loved the script. They loved the idea, but they all said it will cost a lot of money to do it. So if we were well known, I don't think it would be a big problem. But if you're a beginner, I think it's always safe. That would be my advice. It's always safe to start with a smaller. Well, when I say small budget, it means that, you don't have lots of special effects. You don't have hundreds of locations, something simple that you can do in the same location, and that kind of thing. And not many actors, because if you have many actors, that costs a lot of money. So reduce the number of characters, reduce the number of locations, everything that costs money in the script. That will be difficult to produce if you're not known, because obviously if you're well known, you don't have that kind of problem. And so that's both. And then in terms of adapting a book to a screenplay, it's a tricky thing, but I was very lucky because I was working with the writer himself. So we agree, because you can't put all the book into the screenplay. It's not possible, because there are two different mediums. There are two different, material. One is visual and technical, and the other one is more for, you can take your time to go through chapters after chapters. A screenplay is not like that. You're limited in terms of scenes, of time, and you can't put everything you want into the screenplay. So I was very lucky because Kari Oberbrunner is a friend, and I love him so much. much. And sometimes I was saying, we can't put that scene, we can't put that character because it's going to take too long, blah, blah, blah. And you always agreed, you have to sacrifice elements of the book to put it into the screenplay, if it makes sense. Because on top of that, in a film, people, they don't need much detail. All the details are already there in the image. And so you don't, they people that watch films or TV shows or movies, they understand things very quickly. They don't need the background, for instance. In a book, you are allowed to explain the background of a character, their past and everything. But all these things in a screenplay, most of the time, have to go. The background, you start straight into the story and the character at the same time. You don't have the time to explain where they come from, where they were born, who were their mother, their father. No, we have to understand that completely straight from the character how he presents himself or herself in the action.
I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I
Absolutely.
love it.
Yeah.
So writing a book is a very different perspective than writing a screenplay. In a screenplay, you need to think everything technical, everything that you see, everything that you hear. In a book, you can go through the thing you smell, the thing you think about, the memories that comes to you, that kind of thing. In a screenplay, it's everything you see on the screen. So I love it because it's a straightforward way to sort of storytelling. You've got few scenes. Well, when I say for feature film, let's say it's between 40 and 60 scenes, roughly. Yeah. And you've got 109 pages. That also is roughly for a feature film. You can have more. And that is about 109 minutes of film. Whereas in a book, well, I know there are regulations, in books where, they expect for a novel to be at least 60,000 words. I think it's that, isn't it? They expect about that. And then you can go more, but in a screenplay, it's restricted. Therefore, I find this restriction really good because it makes you work how you can fit it all in a very small time.
Wow, so you're asking authors to not expand upon things. Woo, that's hard.
Yes,
because that's all you ever hear. Flesh out the idea. No.
Yes.
Flesh it out.
Yes. What do you want to say? What do you want to say? What's your message?
So I just want to say this one thing, Sophie, because everything I do is about me.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
not.
No, I'm joking. So, like last night, I just finished writing my first for real feature film script.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say everything you said just hit home. I was like, oh, I did that. Oh, I didn't do that. Oh, I did that. And I was like, oh, this makes sense. It's because how bad you just want to write the background story. You're like, but how are they supposed to know?
Yeah. The background is exactly
cool.
Yeah, everybody feels when they write a screenplay, they feel the need to explain the background of the character. Mm-hmm. Like if by explaining where they were born and made of, we will like the character more. But we don't need to know what they've done before. We do, I said, in certain films and certain characters, but we really want to know who they are now. What are they made of now? Because that's the beauty. A character at one point A can be a certain things, and then during the film they change because they receive some challenges along the way that makes them change, and they're not the same with one character and the other. So to be safe and to give advice to your audience, it would be, if you write a book, you can, I think there is a publisher amongst us, and I'm sure she will explain everything about books. But in my category is screenwriting and television. And to be safe, I would say if you adapt your book, make it according to the rules. If you're a beginner, do not expect an expensive script to be bought straight away. Bear in mind that Back to the Future, the film Back to the Future, the script of Back to the Future has been refused 40 times. 40 times.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's ouch, because, it's a good script.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's expensive. And it's people that were already in Hollywood, that were famous in Hollywood, So my safe point is great idea that costs no money, with very few characters, maximum, I'd say between 5 and 8. Don't stretch it out, and then it's about being nice to people.
Sophie, thank you so much for all of that wonderful wisdom, y'all. She can maybe stick around for a little bit longer. If you have any questions, put it in the chat. I'm sure she'll be happy to answer you. Yes. Thank you so much. And our next speaker is Kevin E. West.
Hey, all. Once again, you have me surrounded by a whole bunch of ladies, which is just
you love it.
You love it.
Just a damn pleasure for me. I'm sort of stuck on a time frame, y'all, so I apologize. So let me second everything that Sophie said. The thing that I chose out of your list today, ladies, to talk about was the question about inclusion, which with all of those questions goes hand in hand. And again, for those here who don't know me, I'm 70 plus guest stars and a longtime television career, and author of 3 books and owned a company for show business education, etc. But along with what Sophie is saying so eloquently in terms of high concept and things that cost money, if you're going to try and do something that allows you to be inclusive in the way that we mean it today at this time in this era, there is nothing about what Sophie said that's not included in every single idea you have. Now, if you're doing an adaptation that's off of an actual novel, I think you have a little more latitude than even when you're doing someone's life story. I have the rights to 2 life stories, and that forces you into a bit of a conundrum sometimes based on what you're trying to make sure the story is. A novel is so long that some of the great novels that have been adapted, if you read the book and see the movie, most people like to say, well, I like the book better. And that's partly somebody's experience of just sitting and reading alone, but it is also the ability to write some of the details and how we do it. But let's not forget, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a minute of a moving picture is worth 3,000 words. So that's how you get away with some of the not being able to show background and such without having to explain it all. But also with regards to being inclusive, the biggest thing I would say, ladies, when you think about what inclusion means today, between not only people of color, but also maybe somebody who's handicapped, is it's all about the location that you choose. So if you take location and you couple it with avoiding high concept, but you want something to look really good, even, and be able to keep the budget down to, let's say, since I'm, as you guys all, as the ladies know, I'm heavily involved with SAG-AFTRA in the United States, in terms of the low budget contract, or $2.5 million, just as an example. You want to think about places where people that are a mixed group would convene. So if I were going to write something as an original piece, whether it was a short, whether it was full length, I don't give a shit. The first thing that I would think about would be, where are these people all going to encounter one another? And when you think about money and budget, you can maybe get away with a couple of more actors if you're not trying to run around and do a bunch of different locations. So I think about, and again, permits are an issue depending on what country you may be in, since I was just in Europe and just in England not 2 seconds ago. When you think about places like diners, dog parks, in line for concert tickets, at a rally of some kind, you want to try to pick a location where you can possibly tell your story with one main setting where all different types of people would naturally convene or cross each other's paths. And maybe depending on the place that you find, there maybe is some nearby place where you can have, you know, a setup and a shot with two of those characters or two other characters. But when you start looking at what's in the camera lens, whether you're going to go 20 or 120, you're going to go wide or not, what's in the background, what do you have to protect? You want to try to start with, in my opinion, on being inclusive with the location that you're choosing and the natural mix of people who cross paths. And it will save you money. It will save you time. It saves you lighting. It saves you all of that.
Oh,
And
that's
so that's, to me, when you think about inclusion today, I mean, you can do it inside of an office, absolutely. But the story would have to convene around, you know, go back to the movie, the movie Hello, I'll Be Okay. Most of my career is television, and I just read for a big sitcom. Go back to the TV show Taxi. Taxi, for the most part, 90% of the time was where? It was in the bullpen of where everybody sat, and then Danny DeVito up in the box, right? That was their set. Now, that was a sitcom. There's a reason for that. Once in a while, they would get out of that and do some stupid thing with some bad green screen and shit. But the bottom line is, most of that show was shot on that one place. That's, to me, how you're able to create a terrific story of any set of characters faced with any sort of conundrum and be able to do it within bounds of dollars and with an ethnic mix and a human mix that makes sense. But to me, it's all about the location that you choose. And I don't think that we consider that often enough. You can put almost any gathering or rally or anything like that, whether you want to go rural or city. I mean, again, I'm from rural Tennessee. If I thought about going and, you know, where can I get a great location for freaking free? That's, you know, from a producer standpoint, from a making movie standpoint, you know, how great a view and how cheap can I get away with this? But anytime you go rural, then you have the problem of trying to get to location, protect location, dirt, wind, air, equipment. I mean, everything has its issues, but you want to try to pick some place that naturally, without any thought, without being contrite, without somebody feeling like you're really pushing the envelope of the willful suspense of disbelief, that this is not hard to believe that this little person, this African-American female, this, you know, teen Asian male, blah, blah, blah. I mean, in the world we live in post-COVID, basically, any form of a delivery person showing up anywhere, doing anything is logical, right? So to me, to your question about inclusion, it literally starts with the location and what the location says about who would be there. That's the smartest way to me to do something that's inclusive, that's, again, based on your writing skills, that's funny, and it can also be, to Sophie's point, which is always the bottom line. I mean, you guys know that my whole history educating my fellow peers is that, you know, I'm a Pisces and being a goofball is fun, but art is work. And I do this for money. I don't do it for free. So if you're going to, you know, it's always about the money, and it's always going to be about the money. I don't care if it's your rich uncle. I don't give a shit who the person is that's writing the check or deficit financing this thing. It's no different than a publisher wanting to make edit notes on a book. The bottom line is we are trying to get past the Mendoza line of breaking even and actually make some damn money, at minimum, to get investors their money back. So I see people all the time living in Los Angeles, and people that are talented, that I care about, and they come up with these wonderful things, and yet you look at it, and as soon as there's a moving car in the movie, I just lose my mind. As soon as there's a moving car, I'm like, okay, you just added blah to the budget, just to even try and make that, because I have an old phrase, ladies, and I'll end with this, which is CPS. I've been saying it for years to actors, Contemporary Professional Standards. It's just an acronym I made up years ago. And what you are facing, no matter how small your budget is, no matter even what B star you may have in the film, every single shot that you put together has to look as good as what somebody's going to go to the theater and see. That's Contemporary Professional Standards. So if you have a car and a car move, it's going to have to look as good as the car moves we see from Marvel Studios. It just is. I'm not talking about special effects. And oh, for the love of God, please skip special effects if you're trying to do something for no money. So diners, concert tickets, dog parks, think about places where people convene. That's that's my 10 minutes. And of course, you guys wanted me to answer this question, which I will, for any of your audience who happens to be a performer. Ladies, you don't know this, but you can now find me, and it's specific to what I do. Now that I'm officially making my comeback after having closed the Actors Network, at the Actor MBA, as in an MBA, Master the Business of Acting. The Actor MBA on Instagram and TikTok is where you can start with anybody that you want to refer. I brought back an old idea I came up with 27 years ago, and that is where you will find me with regards to the business of show business for performers.
Wow. Well,
and when he said-
congratulations.
Yes.
First, because I didn't know that was happening, and that's amazing.
Congratulations. And when he says the business of show business, he ain't lying. He
Man.
literally means the business.
He
Like some
gets
days
into
it'd be scary when you talk about business.
Yes,
You'd be like, I thought it was an art though. I do have one question.
The
As
two
in-
questions.
Two questions. I have
Yes,
one,
ma'am.
the other. The one question I have is, what do you consider as an actor when you read a script? What do you consider?
When I read a script, what do I consider?
Yeah, like about the character, if you're even going to think about the part, that sort of thing.
How much it naturally excites me to do it. How much do I want to play that guy? It has nothing to do with what the character is. I can get just as excited about playing a dad as I can playing Jeffrey Dahmer. Okay, that should have been funnier. Anyway, no, just so you know,
We were reading chats.
We were reading the chat.
that's a standard line that I say all the time. That should have been funnier. But no, I have a real, you do things for money, and a lot of what you do in guest star work on episodic dramas, which is a lot of my career, is you do a lot of exposition. So sometimes it's very difficult to get excited about doing that. But I still look for the place where I can make the character a little more alive by my enthusiasm for pretending to be that human being briefly. Yes.
Awesome. So that means that we have to be really good writers when we write the screenplay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got that.
Okay. So the second question is, where can people find your books?
Oh, my book is at kevinewest.com.
And your Instagram, because you're doing the little short
That is
video.
correct. I've switched the angle. My YouTube is the Kevin E, but just have people follow me at the Actor MBA,
Okay.
as in Master Business Acting, the Actor MBA, TikTok and Instagram.
And then the question in the chat for either Kevin or Sophie right now is, what should the contract look like? And I believe that Kevin, you can talk to us a bit about contracts, but it's mostly like actor from the actor side, but just go ahead and talk.
Do you mean the question about the contract look like?
So,
The
wait,
contract as an actor?
Go ahead.
For an author to option their rights to a book.
Oh, I mean, I have copies of them. Ladies, I can send you an example of one that a publisher would send you. But I will say this in general about all contracts, since I've been dealing not only from the negotiation side of the union, but also from the side of being a performer who gets one either from your union and or from a representative, especially the worst of all kinds are managers, personal managers, because they can just make that shit up. They can just put whatever they want in them. And this changes a lot when you get outside the United States, because different countries have different guidelines, or more notably don't have any. But please just make sure that there's some sort of out or exclusionary clause someplace in there that gives you the latitude to be able to terminate it. It's a little different with books and publishers. And it's a little different if you're talking about doing something as a co-executive producer or co-producer, but representative contract should come with an out clause, without question. So work contracts typically don't. They're pretty dialed in and baked in. But I do have a copy of a couple of contracts from publishers. And as always, publishers are going up front to always take more from you than you would prefer. But I will leave you with this, which is at a certain age, we're not going to talk about it, right, ladies? We don't talk about age. At a certain point, 45% of something is better than 100% of zero. I'm from Tennessee. We just do basic math. And I heard 100 times zero is still zero. So I get to make fun of stupid white people because that's where I'm from. So I will, but yeah, you can always expect, especially if you're not a known author, that they are going to take the lion's share. The one thing I'd say about writing a book would be how much latitude you give in the contract for editing. how much they take away from what it is you've written. Because all I'm saying, Sophie knows this with a screenplay. If you're not a known writer, they're very highly likely to buy it and want it, but they may stick a accredited writer on it who winds up who changes 17 words, and they are above the credits on you in the movie for having written it. And by the way, that's just life. So you can get cranky about it, or you can cash the check, be glad your shit got bought, and be glad your name's on there somewhere. You have a choice. But that's me in terms of business, and that's just the way it is until you're the person who gets to do that and have their name up front. I'm so sorry, ladies. I have to run.
Bye.
I have to get. I wish I could talk to Kim, Sophie. Hey, Brandy, good to see you. Susan, my girl Tanya's down there. I don't know Donna, but hi, Donna and Susan. But I'll talk to you all soon, and thanks for having me.
Thank you
for coming. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Jaden will learn that to answer Kim as well. I'd like to add a little thing is I think having a lawyer and an agent helps dramatically for the contract. They would do things for you. Yeah, of course, they cost money, but they make sure they have your back. So that's something that I found out recently with a work colleague of mine. And yes, he invested in, he's from England, and he's been optioned in Hollywood. And he told us his experience with it. And when he brought in the lawyer, everything was sorted. So it's just my little thing. Wait, here we go.
Well, thank you. That is very informative.
Kim, did you have a follow-up question?
I just want to add to what Sophie just said. Our difficulty is actually finding that person, finding the trustworthy lawyer to represent our authors.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. When I said being nice to people at the end of my the interview, I mean that because I think they remember you if you're nice with them, and if you realize that if they're just doing their jobs, they're just doing their jobs, and you shouldn't be mean with them. But it's really about trusting that you're going to meet the right person, trusting that this person is there and will meet you. And then after that, it's about being nice with everyone you encounter, even if they don't give you the answer that you want.
Tanya, you had something that you would like to say since you are in both worlds.
Yeah, I put it in the chat. You should look to the Authors Guild. They offer assistance in that area. So if an author joins the Authors Guild, they will help with the law aspect, the legal aspect of reviewing contracts and making sure that you're not getting swindled.
There we go. I had people I would refer, but it's being live, so no,
we'll talk about it.
I won't make any personal references.
This is why y'all should came to the conference, and then you would get personal references after the day is done.
Exactly. Definitely. So our next person is going to be a casting director, and she is not a live one. She is a pre-record. I mean, it's not like she's dead. She's alive. It's just that it's a pre-record. So give us one moment and we will pull that right up for you. And share our screen. So a lot of people, they had a small issue with being able to work on Friday. Some people were on set. So they did pre-records. And I apologize for that. You don't get to ask the questions you're gonna wanna ask, but hopefully this will still give you information.
And bye, Sophie. Thank you for coming.
Sophie, thank you. Oh my word. Can I just say this one thing before Sophie leaves? Sophie here was amazing.
We forgot to ask, where can people find you?
Yes.
Yeah, at my website, it's the best. I'm on TikTok as well, and it's all the same name, Pilot Light Writing. You can find me there on almost, I'm not on Instagram anymore, but you can find me there on Facebook and with the same name on my website, on TikTok, everything. Where I give daily.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
What time is it in France?
Sorry?
What time is it in France?
Yeah.
What time?
It's 6:30.
I mean, giving up your dinner. hour. So thank you
Yes,
so
I'm
much
gonna
again.
cook dinner for the kids. I would like to thank you so much for having me again, and thank you all for being there. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, as we start this screen share.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, my name is Katie Taylor. I am a commercial print and independent film casting director based out of Los Angeles, California. We cast nationwide, and we've been in business since the 90s.
I'm sorry. You've been in business since the 90s. Tell us about that.
Well, it was definitely a different business back then than it is now. That was before the internet. So our processes were definitely extremely different. I started out as a casting assistant purely by accident. I had gone to school to become a preschool teacher. And because you don't get very much adult interaction as a preschool teacher, I kind of picked up some of the hobbies I had as a kid. And I was a gymnast up until I was about 12. And if you don't make it to the Olympics by 12, you know, you're pretty much, your career is over. So when I was, 18, 19 years old, I started taking gymnastics classes again while I was teaching. And I met all these stunt people. There were all these people in the stunt business in these adult gymnastics classes. And they were all working on, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Batman and Spider-Man. And it was a lot more exciting than teaching a bunch of 3-year-olds. And so I kind of started tagging along with them to auditions to like, oh, they're looking for someone to do back handsprings on this TV show, or they're looking for someone to do a trip and fall scene. And I eventually completely quit teaching preschool and went full force into the stunt industry, doing circus arts and precision driving and all sorts of crazy stuff. And as you might imagine, when you do that, I got injured a lot because that's my job, right? To get hurt for the actor. And during a point in time where I had rolled one ankle and sprained the other, I was like hobbled like Kathy Bates from that movie. I ran into a casting assistant who was like, oh my gosh, no wonder we haven't seen you lately. Like, how are you surviving? And I was like, I'm not really, and he was like, well, why don't you come like answer the phone in the office and help us do real people research? And real people is when for advertising, they're looking for like real nurses, real firemen, real mothers with their real babies, whatever it was stuff that you couldn't really find in actors very easily. And so I took my crippled, hobbled butt over to that office and I never left. I started doing all their research. And eventually, after maybe about 2 or 3 years, I left and I started up my own company when I felt pretty secure in all the tasks. And that was, I think I started my company back in 2000. It was back in 2000 when I first started this company. And then it's just kind of grown ever since. And we definitely more specialize in advertising. But there's been a few occasions where some of my directors have said, hey, I wanna shoot a movie. Will you cast it for me? But the majority has been, commercials and commercial print.
So I have 2 questions. I think you might have answered one. I'm leming it on the bow, why I'm so absent-minded. Number 1 is, what was different about the 90s? You said there was no internet, but like, how did you submit if there was no internet? And then number 2, and you noticed you said real people. So I just wanted to know if you're looking for real cute people.
Totally. We're always looking for real cute people.
Ooh, I have a future.
Yes, you totally do. You would do well. So back then, now we put everything on either breakdown services or Actors Access, as well as casting networks. That goes all online. It emails the breakdown to every agent, every actor in town that has an account, and they submit virtually. We ask for self-tapes virtually. Everything gets uploaded to the net. We send a link to our client. That's how it happens now. Back then, we typed up a breakdown on a typewriter and we faxed it to Breakdown Services, who then typed it up again and faxed it to all the agents in town, who would then manually put together packages of hard copy headshots. And some of the smaller agents would like stuff candy in the envelopes too, to try to get us to open them. You know, that was like their bribery back then. And then literally they would all get messengered or like urgently shipped to our offices, and there would be a giant dumpster, literally an industrial sized dumpster that would collect them all. And then somebody at the studio, because we would share a studio with like 5 or 6 other casting directors. So this massive dumpster, then we sent all the assistants down to sort it. And each one got a shopping cart, a full overflowing shopping cart that then we had to push up in the elevator. And then the casting assistants would have those like cubicles from IKEA, and they would put a Post-it note, mom, dad, son, grandma, mailman, and they would open the packages and put them all in the cubicles. And then we would take the stack and give it to the casting director. Here, go through this one. This one's all the moms. And they would literally have to do it manually by hand. And then they would pass us, you know, stack went from 3 feet high to like 2 inches. And they'd hand us that stack and we would have to write it up. And then we would have to phone call it out. Hi, I'm calling with times for tomorrow for Taco Bell. I have Joe Smith at 7 p.m. I have, you know what I mean? And then they would have to call us back to confirm. And it was all, and then they would come to the studio, we'd put them on tape and we would cord it to a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch tape that then we had to dub and copy and then ship to the clients along with people's size cards that had a Polaroid photo of them stapled to it. If it was a role where it was like a huge SAG National commercial, double scale, pays a lot, and we were looking for like literally 18 to 28-year-olds, all ethnicities, I mean, like that's insane. We would get
Right, that's everybody.
So what we would do in those type of scenarios, which was awful, is we would filter the packages.
First, I'm curious, before the pandemic, did you prefer self-tapes or in-person auditions?
Oh no, I didn't even do self-tapes before the pandemic, to be honest. The only time I'd ever done them was when we were casting remotely in other states, you know what I mean? Where we were looking for, you know, real runners for Nike in Philadelphia or whatever it was.
Okay.
Like then, because we, you know, it was cheaper to not fly there, to just have people send us stuff.
You do the first round through self-tape and then do callbacks in person?
It depends. The only time I've done callbacks in person is when it's very performance or chemistry driven. 95% of the time, callbacks are Zoom.
Of course, my next question was like, are there snacks for the people who have to wait and for the people who have to come in and perform? I mean, there has to be cold water, juice, and or I don't know, chips.
Yeah, you know, in a lot of lobbies, there are vending machines.
No, I meant free snacks.
Yeah, I wish. You want to get a SAG National where you make $80,000 for 1 day of work. That will buy you all the snacks you want.
Yeah.
That's the carrot. That's the carrot.
That buys you lots of time to write.
Ooh, it surely does. Excuse me, ma'am. How do I get involved in this now?
There is no exaggeration. I'll never forget. I booked a bunch of kids in the very first, how will I say this? Because I'm not allowed to say the brand. In the first tablet commercial, the very first tablet to come
Nicely done.
out, they each made, I kid you not, $350,000 a piece.
Wow.
And it's because they hold a lot of conflicts. You know what I mean? They were holding tablets, computers, telephone services, and it was worldwide. It went all over the world. There were billboards, so there was an additional print campaign. It was by far the biggest payout I've ever handed out in my life, and it was all kids.
Good for those kids.
Well, those kids now have their college paid for. That was it. They were all, 6, 7, 8 years old. Done. 1 day a week.
I'm not gonna lie to you. You were talking about these checks, and I was like, this is a great way to pay for med school.
It is.
It is. So I also read that you used to do all the submissions on your own. Is that still the case? Do you still handle them on your own, or are there
Oh yeah, no, I don't have any staff go through my submissions for me. That is the art of casting right there.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and that's hard. That's the hardest part. Because you're often under the gun time-wise.
Yeah.
You have to say they have they have created a digital filter system for us. You remember how I said we used to segregate our packages
Right.
between good agents and not so great agents? We can now pre-program on the casting sites our own filter system, saying like, show me only the submissions from my top 10 best comedy agents or whatever. We can make our own filters. You know, I have one for kids, I have one for the best modeling agents. And that way it goes from 3,500 submissions down to 900. You know what I mean? You just like cut
Yeah.
it, you know, by
Makes it really
search.
efficient.
Yeah, and it's because that's hard. You know, after a while, like every, you know, like all those blonde dudes look the same.
Right.
I mean,
So what are the things that help you narrow your list? What are some things that make an actor stand out to you?
well, you know, the number one thing, and this is something that I think makes
And I want to make it clear, I'm asking on a headshot level and I'm asking on an audition level.
Instagram, making fun of like caricatures in the industry. You know what I mean? Like she did one
I
like
think I've seen those
like
videos.
it was like a stage mom that happens upon a shoot on her street. And she was like,
Yeah.
oh, you guys are shooting here? You know,
Right.
Bill Billy, so good. You know what I mean? Or like, you know, she did one recently that had me in stitches that was, you know, this is what it's like to go to her local coffee shop the day after her co-star airs.
That was a question that I sent over though. I'm just saying, heads up.
I
I was
guess,
just looking at that question to
You
ask.
should have sent me your question so I didn't duplicate them.
you know, it's funny because the things that immediately stand out in my head are all negative.
That's all right. We're here for the entertainment.
Tampons, whatever. I will be there. That would be my dream, honestly. Absolutely 100% would
I feel
be.
like we're in kindred spirits here because I would definitely go for that too. That and food, either or. I'll take either. But
Or both.
yeah, you got good goals.
Well, you always get the last question. It's your show.
Right, I do. So my question is a two-part question because, well, I want to ask this one real bad. So I'm
Where
going
did they
to.
go?
And then the other one is, I lied. It's a three-part question.
How about we
Math
lost
is
it, y'all?
hard.
It's
That's
okay.
hilarious.
So-
I'm okay.
No, because I remembered I have to ask this question because otherwise it doesn't work with TikTok.
We just lost it.
So, what three pieces of advice are absolutely essential
This is
for
really
any
funny.
actor to book the job? Can you tell that's the TikTok question?
Found you.
Follow the instructions.
Okay, we
That's
found
the
it.
number one.
Maybe? Nope. Lies.
Number two, follow the instructions. And number three, follow the instructions.
Okay, now the questions I want to ask. How much collaboration does the
Because of
casting
course we would
director
love-
have with other people in a
Where
film?
did
And
we
then, of
lose
course,
this
last, if
thing?
you want to do this, where people can find out more information about you and your company. Like, I mean, if you just want to do you, it could be social media handles. Do not tag her.
Thank you.
If it's your company, you can do the website as well.
Okay, what was the first one?
How much collaboration do you
Okay,
have?
collaboration.
All right, y'all, we found it officially. Oh, that's funny. All right, so
We are coming up on, we have
hold
about
on, wait,
13
let's check
minutes.
out. I'll chat first.
We have about 13 minutes before we have another live speaker.
Wow. Okay.
So our next one is
Actually,
Danielle.
Does anybody have any questions? So
Questions,
far?
comments, and/or concerns. Yes, that's a good idea. Let's keep it live for a moment. And then if not, which normally happens where they don't have questions,
Comments or concerns?
you can unmute yourself and ask questions. But if not, then we'll move on to the next pre-record, which is literally an author that turned her book into a movie by herself. Like she found everything. Questions?
Comments, concerns?
5, 4, 3, 2. All right, then we're going back to watching a movie. One. Hello, everyone. We have thoroughly enjoyed learning so much about Hollywood and what we should be doing. And as writers, we know that the dream is to always have those words come off the page and onto the actual screen. And guess who we get to talk to now? Danielle D. Smith, someone who has done that on her own. Now, she did not go and pitch Hollywood. No, she did not go and get a production company, but she did it herself. And if you want to know how to do this yourself, I guess you better listen up. Danielle, would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Danielle D. Smith, and I am an award-winning author and filmmaker, as well as an instructor. I teach at our local media school. Super excited about that. And I am also the new founder of Columbus Film Author and Photography Festival, which will be happening this year. Super excited about that. And it all came from me writing a book. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. So they say that the book is the new calling card. I feel like the book was just a whole door for you. You were like, forget the card, not knocking down the door.
Yeah.
What was
I mean, and that actually is true. The success that I've had, with just writing one book has been amazing. And it's like unheard of, I mean, of course people can do it, but typically, someone has multiple books under them, and I just have one. So I've been blessed.
I feel like I should be like, well, tell us about the book. But this is not about the book. Let's get to the meat of the conversation. Tell us the first step that an author has to think about when they go, ooh, from book to movie. What is the first thing they need to know?
Well, definitely, is the story meaty enough? And so, is it juicy, right? When we watch a film, whatever the film may be, it could be a full feature, it could be a documentary, it could be a docudrama like mine, whatever type of film it is it good? And it's like, want to know from people that have read the book, what do they like and what don't they like? And, what could have been told more? Because we all know we've seen a lot of books to film, right? And we know that they're different, right? They're never totally the same. Typically, more is added into the film than it is into the book. And why? Because you've gotten feedback and you're like, okay, I should add this. And so, yeah, it's like a bonus to be able to get the film, you know what I mean? Because you're gonna hear two maybe extra things that didn't happen in the book, And so that's the beauty of it is, but knowing from the beginning, that you have a meaty, great, juicy, ooh, I want to know more kind of book that can, handle an hour and a half, or a half an hour, whatever it is that you choose to do. And then after that, knowing that, it would be writing into a screenplay. So having a script or having your book is one thing, right? That's one written material, but then you have to put it into a screenplay. And what is a screenplay? A screenplay is the book written with all the details for a director and for the actors. The actors and the actresses, as well as the director, mainly, have to be able to look at a script in order to know where to go. So what is happening in this scene? Where is this scene happening? Is there special music that'll be involved with this particular scene? And then of course, all the words, who's saying what, and then at what time and so forth. This is scene one, scene two, are we changing the scene? And so all of those things have to be then written in a different format, from the book. It has to be an actual script, which is a screenplay. So that's really the two main things. Make sure it's juicy. And then once it's written as a book, you have to write it as a screenplay in order to then get it to a director or producer.
I mean, you said book to script, which immediately for me goes, I need people to know what it takes to go from book to script. How long was your book?
So my book is 162 pages.
And how long was your script?
So I'm a little bit non-traditional. I guess I shouldn't say this because we're teaching it, but I'll go ahead and let the cat out the bag, okay? So the benefits of me writing my book and then me directing and producing it is I had the choice of how I wanted to present it. So the way that I presented mine was a docudrama, meaning I am narrating, okay, and then I had actors and actresses act out what I'm saying. So literally, I believe there's like, 5 words maybe that somebody else is saying. And so I didn't have to have a script. Okay. So my director, and I had a co-director, they knew what was going on. It was just a plan. So with us, it was more of a storyboard, which is what you give to a producer and director as well, mostly director. And so it was a storyboard, which is, it's kind of like, oh my goodness, what are those little things when we were kids? Oh God, I don't know if you're even old enough for this. They were Etch-a-Sketch, okay? So a storyboard is kind of like that. That's what it reminds me of, is you're looking at it, on a screen, right? Because Etch-a-Sketch was like our first vision of a TV, right? For children, right? And so it's looking at it and it's writing out what is going to happen in each scene. So this particular scene, it has mom and dad in it and a kid coming into the room, and they're at home and they're going into the kitchen, so that's scene 1. Scene 2 has been different. And so for me, because I was narrating it, I know the story, I directed it, I was able to get away with not having a full screenplay. And so that's the benefit, but also at the same time, I was the one that was narrating it. Okay, so but then when you're bringing other people into it and it's a full, film, no, you better have a script. And there are people that, that can work on that for you. You want to give it to an expert so that it's done correctly, and so then that way it'll get you far. That is the key piece. A lot of people want their book to go to film, but they don't understand that they have to present it to a director as a screenplay. That's what people are missing out on. So let's say, for instance, okay, yes, my book will be great for the screen, and you give it to a director. They're looking at it like, oh crap, now I gotta pay somebody to then write this into a whole script for us to be able to get actors and actresses and have a casting call and have them read this information in order to make this movie. But the first thing they have to do is make it into a screenplay, to make it a script. And so that's the piece a lot of people are missing. A lot of authors is you want to give them your book, but then they got to pay somebody to turn it into a script. So if you go ahead and write it as a script or pay someone to do that, your chances of getting more money at the end of the day are higher.
Exactly. I just want you guys to know that right now, I was doing a little working on my script, but she was talking, I got inspired and wrote a whole sentence. I was paying attention though, because I heard what you said. You didn't have to write a script.
But like I said, that's the benefit of me doing it myself. Yeah, if you have the ability to do it yourself, then hey, right, you control the narrative, you control everything, but if you have a script or a story where a lot of people are going to be in it, you need a script. If there's a lot of words, you need a script, whether you're directing and producing it or not. If you have actors and actresses, like I said, there's probably 5, and I might be generous. If I really sat down and thought about it, it might be less than that. There's 5 words. It's mostly they were acting it out. Like I said, it was the drama piece of it. And so I didn't need that. I knew the story. I wrote the storyboard. And so I stayed on task and on flow, but I didn't need that for everybody else. So, think about that. Do not make your director work hard because they're going to charge you more. All right. And your rights can be taken away because they did the work.
I would like to, since we just talked about your rights can be taken away over the script. Wow, thank you. Mm-hmm. So maybe you want to go ahead and wait, what am I using again? I forgot what Final Draft. And get to learn it.
Yes. So how you present it to a director, you know, like I said, do they have to pay someone to write this into a script, or do they have the ability to do it, and do they have the time to do it? You know, that's what delays a lot of things is, you know, it takes time for everything. So it takes time to write the script, to make sure that the script is able to be read by the cast. Is it able to be read by the directors? Are they able to see the vision? Are they able to understand that, you know, you wanted this song played, you know what I'm saying, you wanted this song played at Q4 in scene 5, but to them it seemed like you wanted it in scene 7. You know what I'm saying? So making sure all those directives are clear. You know, if they have to do extra work and they have to pay somebody, they wrote it then, right? I mean, and so then when we look at films, you know, it's that based on a story by, what else is another one that they say, original film, original book adaptation or something like that, you know? And so a difference that we can see is, so Inventing Anna was a true story that, you know, a lady a journalist wrote the story in a magazine. And then that story was then adapted into, you know, the Netflix series, right? Okay, so she wrote it, and then she wrote it as a script, and that's how she has some rights to it. Now, I don't know what she ended up with, you know, her contract, that's not known. I don't have a clue. But I believe the way that it looks to me is that she's not getting as much money, okay? Whereas on the other end, if we look at Miss Joy Lynn Ross, who wrote her book, did the screenplay, you know what I'm saying? Like she can get royalties from that, okay? So every time it's played, but I don't know for sure. I'm just saying, I don't know for sure, but the way that it was written, it does not look like in the Inventing Anna situation that she can get royalties. Now she has naming rights. I mean, hey, who wouldn't want to have the #1 show, right? Same with Orange is the New Black. You know what I'm saying? So she wrote that story first and then gave that story to them. Now, I'm sure she probably wrote it in script format too, because she's a writer. She's a true writer, teaches it and everything. So she may have more rights, you know what I'm saying? But just know that those are the differences. If you got to give it to somebody and they write it, the amount of money that you're going to get is not that much. You can get so much more if you actually write the screenplay, you know, and negotiate that out.
And to negotiate that out. That is a really important point. Negotiate that out. Okay, so right here, we're going to go ahead and stop our screen share because our next live speaker is here, and that is Betsy Randolph. We're definitely going to come back to Ms. Daniel D. Smith, and she has so much more information about financing and how to find it. And you know what I just recognized? I did not cut my camera on. I am just a talking picture. And I got dressed too cute to be a talking picture. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I love it. In the chat, interesting point about getting more money if you also are the script writer. Yeah, it's a nice point. It's a good enough point that I actually that you would. Okay, so you know there are different screenwriting softwares out there that could definitely help you write your script, and then you know there's always the Save the Cat book, so that could help you write your script as well. So. But anyway, let's get moving on and go ahead and get to Betsy Randolph. And this is where we're going to get to our writing section of the day. We're going to leave Hollywood and go back to everyone's living room with their typewriters and such. And we're going to talk to Betsy Randolph, who is the president of Women's West Writers. It's 3 W's.
So close. It's Women Writing the West.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you. And since you're already on the screen, go ahead and just keep rolling. Introduce yourself and then talk a bit about why you would want to be in an association and or group.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I am absolutely blessed to be here. I love talking about women writing the West for a number of different reasons, but number one is because I love to share the story about how just the connection of a friend. I found out about Women Writing the West about 6 years ago. a girlfriend, I was at another writers conference, and a girlfriend told me, you should come to Women Writing the West. And so, so it's just word of mouth is how I found out about it. And I wasn't really sure, what could Women Writing the West do for me? And that's so greedy and so selfish, but I wanted to know. I mean, you're paying your dues, your annual membership, and what am I going to get out of that? And so she briefly told me a little bit about Women Writing the West. But the thing that is that any kind of organization, whether it's a church, whether it's a YMCA membership, whether it's any kind of association where you get a group of people together, your perspective and your view of what that organization is and what you bring to the table and what you get from it, it all goes through your own filtering process. So it means something different. It looks different. It tastes different. It feels different to each and every person. So when I started learning about Women Writing the West, the very next year, I think the conference was I want to say it was in Santa Fe. And so I thought, great, because I love Santa Fe. And so I went to that very first conference, and that was my introduction to Women Writing the West. Here's what I found. A very welcoming group of women, like-minded women, who wrote stories where women or girls were the protagonist, if you will, or the story was featured about them and the American West. Not all of it was historical. Not all of it was, old Western, old-timey Western. Some of it was very modern. Some of it was set in the American West, everything west of the Mississippi. But it was, Hawaii, or it was Canada. And so that was very unusual. I did not realize that people were writing kind of a Western type book, but not necessarily in the United States. What I found about Women Writing the West, what I found fascinating about Women Writing the West is that we're a large international writing organization. We've got members in Canada and Germany and Australia. I'm kind of drawing a blank on where the other places are, and of course, all over the United States. We're a nonprofit based out of Colorado. We do have a lot of Colorado writers, and most of all of the members are women. However, we do have some men. And I joke and say this, I say it lovingly, obviously as the president, but I don't know why a man would want to be a member of Women Writing the West, but I do understand why they would want to be associated with our group, because we are very accommodating, we're very supportive, and we have a lot of things going on that will help men. Men want to understand women. I think that's the truth of the matter. I know that people joke, my husband especially jokes and said, there's no way that men can understand women, but that's just not true. And I think that's one of the draws. I have not sat down and talked to any of our men members. Well, it's been 2 years since we've even had an in-person conference. So I'm hoping that this year when we meet in October here in Oklahoma City, that I'll be able to sit down and say, okay, now what was your draw? Why would you want to be a member of Women Writing the West? I'm glad they're here, don't get me wrong, but I do want to know why. And I think it's probably because, if I had to guess, they want to know how women think. They want to know what's really going on upstairs. They want to know when I write a female character, because that's really what it's about. That's why you join a writing organization, is to encourage each other and to learn from one another. Applaud each other and find out what's working for someone, whether it be marketing, whether it be strategy, whether it be, writing a particular scene, whether it's romance, whatever it is that you're writing, fiction, nonfiction, memoir, poetry, whatever it is, we learn from each other. And oftentimes it's not just little programs that we've got going on, it's how you learn from each other. It's simply just interacting. And so that's one of the many reasons that I'm excited about having our live in-person conference in Oklahoma City in October. The dates are the 20th through the 22nd. We're going to be downtown Oklahoma City. Really, really looking forward to getting back together with the gals and guys from all over the globe. Some of the other things, I was just looking at our website so that I could refresh my memory about some of the things that we offer as far as women, specifically our writing organization. I've only been involved in 2 writing organizations outside of college. And so I wanted to know, and I want to be able to explain to you some of the benefits. And obviously social media. We've got every social media account that's available out there, most likely. We've got it, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. We've got all those. I think we have something on LinkedIn, or at least they're moving that direction. But we also have things like a critique writing group, where you can join a group based on the genre that you're writing, whether I'm in a murder mystery or actually a mystery writing group. And so the ladies that are in my group are spread out all over the United States, and we come together once a month. We share writing with each other, and then point out some things that really work, and then some things that maybe that writer could work on, that author could work on to improve that piece. And we're doing that like a chapter at a time. And this is something new that Women Writing the West just started this year during my presidency, because we saw it was a need. And I love, if you've never been involved in a critique writing group, I really encourage you to do it, because it's really beneficial for you. You're going to grow a lot during that time period. So do that if you can. So that's one of the things, the social media, the critique writing group. We've got something called Wintering with Women Writing the West. During the dark days of winter, when people aren't moving around very much doing book signings or going out to different readings or what have you. This is a way that we can bring in different authors that are not members of Women Writing the West, but that can present something to our women. We do it typically January, February, March, and April. And it's just one night that they come in for an hour, 2 hours, depending on how many questions the ladies ask after they've, whoever it is that's presented. We had some great presenters the last 2 years, because this is also something we've just recently started. And I'm hoping that will continue when the next president takes over in October. So we've got those two great things. Recently, we started, we have contests too. Don't let me forget that, because that's a huge thing that our organization does. You may have heard of Willa Cather, Pulitzer Prize winning author. Well, we've got something called Women Writing the West, the Willa Award. And it's a Willa Literary Award. And you don't have to be a member to enter the contest. If you have a published book, we do it every year, I think in January or maybe February is when it starts, but you submit your book with that it was published the year before. And the criteria is all on our website. It's womenwritingthewest.org. So you can go there and look on the awards tab. So the Willa Award is one contest. The Laura Short Fiction Award is something just for our Women Writing the West members. So they submit their best 5,000 words or less, a short piece for the contest every year. So it's after the Laura Ingalls Wilder author. Then there's something called the Downing Journalism Award, and this is one of our founding members. So people submit, I think it's 500 to 700 word journalism piece that was published the year before. And so that's the other award. And lastly, but I think it's super, super important, and that's our high school writing contest. And this is something that just started. So excited about this. We realize that when I look at the demographics of Women Writing the West, we don't have very many young people. And the only way for us to reach out to those young people, aside from, doing things in our communities to reach young authors, young writers, if you will, is to have some way to acknowledge their work and acknowledge their teachers. So we decided to start the Women Writing the West High School Writing Contest this year. It's going on right now. I think the shut off is October 1. All the details are on our website. It's $10 to enter. If you know a high school student who loves to write, we'd love to have them write. We've got several competitions, several categories rather, that are based on the main 3 awards that we already have for the adults. And that's the Willa Youth Award, the Laura Youth Award, and the Downing Youth Award. Same kind of categories, just fantastic. So we really hope to get some high school students involved and get them excited and get our members excited about interacting with young people. Because look, one of these days we're not going to be here. And if we want our organization to thrive and to continue, the only thing we can do is reach out to that younger generation. And I would have loved to have somebody that was published that was knowledgeable, to acknowledge the work that I was putting in as a young writer. And that's what I want to do for our young people. And that's what our board of directors wants to do as well. So there's a lot of things that we can provide authors and writers. And you don't have to be a published writer to be a writer. You just have to write, you know? And so I told somebody that just yesterday, you don't have to be published to be a writer. Get out there and write. That's the hardest part of it anyway. So, boy, I haven't hardly taken a breath. Do you have any questions?
I love that you don't have to write. You don't have to be published to be a writer. You just have to
get out there and write.
Thank you
so much. And then we did
Tanya
have
has a question.
yes.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I've heard a lot of good things about your organization.
Thank you.
I'm curious if your conference offers pitch appointments for acquiring editors and literary agents.
That is a great question, Tanya. Absolutely. We've got a gal that she's a literary agent from New York City, and she has got a team of agents, editors that have a panel that are going to come and present. But in addition to that, they're also going to stick around and do pitches the whole time during conference. They start on Friday morning and they'll end Saturday evening before the conference ends. I mean, they'll go the entire time. So people,
where could we find a list of what the editors are acquiring, what their interests are?
Good second question. That is all on our website. If you go to our website, womenwritingthewest.org, and you go to the conference tab, then you'll read all the information about the conference. And then there's a little block that's on there. I believe it's on the left side that says, here's our agents and editors that are going to be present for pitches. And then you can read about each one of them and what they're looking for.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Tanya always has the great questions.
I'm just saying that was so professional. It even ended like you were on a phone call.
It was beautiful. It was beautiful, Tanya. As always.
Betsy, you know, I have the same question that I always have, which is, how can someone speak at your conference for, say, I don't know, next year?
Okay, wonderful question. Love your outfit, by the way. Let's see. So how can a person speak at our conference next year? Beginning in about January, we will have a call for submissions for proposals for conference. So there's a little form that's on our website. You don't have to be a member. You don't even have to like any of us. But if you want to come and talk to us at conference, there's a little form on there. You fill it out. It goes straight to the conference chair for that year. They look it over and pick the ones that they want based on it's usually based on their theme. So I'm going to give you that little hint. That's a free hint. So like this year, our theme is Red Earth Voices, because we're here in the land of the red man in Oklahoma. Now, does everything have to be Native American? Absolutely not. Because the rest of that says Red Earth Voices, we all have a story to tell. And so we asked the people that were pitching to come to conference to speak, to focus on that as our theme. We want to be as inclusive as we can. We want people to understand that most of our writers are writing about women and girls in the American West. But they're, all kinds of stories. They just have to be, especially with our group, especially like I said, for our contest, the protagonist or the main feature in the story has to be about women or girls and their contribution to the American West.
All right.
Right.
Thank you so much coming on, and tell people where they can find you specifically.
Well, I'm in Guthrie, Oklahoma, but I know that's not what you meant. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter. No, I stopped my Twitter account. I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram, and it's just Betsy Randolph. And let's see, you can find me on my website, betsyrandolph.com. And usually I'm here in Guthrie, Oklahoma, America, tripping around.
I did have.
No, we did not. We're
No,
over
I
time.
mean, we are over time. But
So
I
we're
was
not over
I'm
time.
having a question.
Uh-oh.
So I would like to know, did you need any publishers to show up at your event? No.
Sure.
I'm trying to start some trouble.
Yeah.
You know
So
what? No, that's a great question, because the University of Oklahoma Press just yesterday signed up as a sponsor. So if you know of a publisher that wants to be a sponsor, The sponsor page is also there on our website on the conference tab. And it can tell you what you can do if you're a publisher and you want to come and be acknowledged, or you want to come and set up a booth. That's wonderful. We'd love to have you. That information is right there on our website. And like I said, University of Oklahoma Press just signed up yesterday, and that's our first press to sign up as a sponsor. So we'd love to.
Wait. What if you're a publisher that's looking for new writers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Come mingle. Come meet.
So,
Absolutely.
I'm
So
going to do
Kim,
this real quick. So Kim, meet Betsy. Kim is a publisher. Betsy is obviously looking for publishers.
So we're starting a little trouble in our own conference. We just want to let you know, because Conspiring for Greatness.
Well, and I'm glad that you asked that. So Kim, the good thing about our conference is you don't have to be a member to come. There's so many opportunities to mingle and interact with people. That really, in my opinion, is the best way. Obviously, if you want to come, if you want to come as a sponsor, you want to get a booth, you can do that.
What's your attendance?
Typically, we have between 100 and 150. We had a lot, surprisingly, during our virtual
That's a
conference.
stupid question now.
No,
Uh,
no,
Right?
no stupid questions. Because here's the thing, it depends on where the conference is set. And I know that's goofy because we keep you busy the whole time. You have to actually ditch class to go enjoy anything or come before or after, because we keep you so busy. But like when we had people in Santa Fe, we've had it in Denver and Tucson and Santa Fe. And this is the first time ever in Oklahoma in our 28 years of existence. And I don't know if things are going to be lower this year. We've got around 100 signed up so far, so I'm not concerned. I hope that it gets higher than that.
Say the date again, please.
It's October 20th through the 22nd.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for coming on. And I hope all about Conspiring for Greatness for both of y'all works out very well. But we have to move on to our next guest, and that would be Brandy M. Miller. And she's going to talk to us about reality television.
So before we start this, Brandy had a lovely idea for a reality TV show for writers. And Brandy, can you tell us a bit about your journey and setbacks in that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to share with you. So it really started in 2015. I had this idea to create a reality TV show for writers. What I wanted to do was take 40 writers and have them over 40 days write, publish. I'll get this in a moment. Write, polish, and pitch their books to publishers who would then be given the option to pick their books up or not. And along the way, though, what we would be doing as part of the reality show is training them in the business of what goes on behind the scenes with publishing, so that they would be prepared to step up as business partners to the publisher. And if they didn't like the pitches they were getting from the publishers, they could walk away and self-publish. They would have the audience built up through the show, all of the mechanisms that got them to the show in the first place, and they could choose to walk away and self-publish or pick one of the fine publishers that pitched, that they pitched to. So that was the concept for the show. And so I'm going to teach you all 10 things that I learned on my journey to try and making this a reality. Okay. So the first thing is, if you have a great idea, but you aren't a recognized expert in your field, fix that before you pitch. Because what will happen otherwise is that Hollywood may go ahead and pay you a pittance for your idea, but then they'll put their own expert on it and it won't be your show. Okay, you won't get anything more for it and you won't get recognized for it. So it really won't benefit you. Second is, know how likely you are to be able to find an interested audience before you pitch, and be able to express that to whoever you're pitching to. So how many people are trying to do this thing or live this lifestyle or are interested in learning about this lifestyle? For example, 60% of Americans are interested in starting a business, and Shark Tank has been one of the top running shows for 10 seasons because they're tapping into that existing market. Now, I will tell you that 80 to 90% of Americans believe they have a book in them, but fewer than 3% of them will ever sit down to write it. Part of it is they don't know what to expect when it comes to the publishing process. So that was part of the reason my show was designed to sort of overcome that obstacle. Now, build your network, and oh yeah, build your network. Your success will depend largely on who you know, and more importantly, who knows you. If you're going to get into the industry, you need as many network connections as possible with publishers, with agents, with promoters, with producers. So just look for as many opportunities as you can to connect with people, because you never know where that next connection will lead you. Put together a team you can trust, and make sure that team works together so seamlessly that it makes more sense to a producer to keep you guys together than it does to build a team of their own. And the reason I say this is one of the Hollywood producers told me that it didn't matter if I had my own team, they would break it apart, they would put in their own. So I'm telling you now, if you want to run your show and you want to have it run your way, make sure that the team you have together, it makes way more sense for them to let you go alone with the team that you've already got in place than it does to substitute their own. You want it to be more cost effective and more efficient for them. All right, so point number 5, put together a sizzle reel, which is a short video that shows the concept and what you're looking to create on a small scale, so it's easier for producers to envision what it is you're trying to achieve. If they can see it and basically touch it, it's easier for them to get behind it. 6, know the story your show is trying to tell, so you can identify where the drama and plot points will come from out of the unscripted reality. And yes, there does need to be drama and tension and all the good things that make a story good. But you don't have to script those things, I promise you. If you set things up correctly, the drama will unfold naturally on its own. Put enough people under enough pressure, and I promise you, drama will ensue. Look for opportunities to create appeal intersection. In other words, areas where the show can appeal to more than one interest without losing the focus of the show. So for example, if we were to do this with writers, you want to combine a human interest stories with a rags to riches story, right? So you want the author to be somebody who's maybe down and out on their luck, and this is their shot to break it into the big time and make something of their life finally. That kind of thing appeals to multiple groups of people. So you're more likely to draw in people who wouldn't be interested necessarily in writing, but would love the drama of seeing somebody pulled from a rags to riches kind of thing. So, and be patient. It may take time to find the right team, the right producer, the right director, and the right person who's interested in funding this big basket. It may even take time for the right technology to make its appearance. Then be encouraged by competition. Nobody can steal your show because nobody can bring to it what you can. So let your competition prove the concept for you, and it will be easier to get in the door. Like there is currently a reality show that popped up where people are being pitching their books, and somebody's like, aren't you discouraged because this show is coming up? It's kind of taking on your idea. I'm like, no, this is great news actually, because if they can get a big enough viewership, it proves that people are interested in watching a show about writers. So don't be discouraged by competition. Look for ways to leverage it in your favor. And last of all, but least, don't let critiques and negative comments shut you down. Listen to them, glean the positive thing you can out of them, and then use what they've told you to sort of propel yourself forward, to fix the problems that they identify. Like early on, they told me I wasn't the right person for the show because I wasn't well known. Then somebody told me that, oh, writing is too esoteric, you know, a show about writers won't succeed. Well, that's what led me to go do the research to find out how many people want to write a book, how many people are interested in this concept. So those are the things that I would tell you about writing or creating a reality TV show. Any questions?
I think that's awesome. I hope you, I'm really, although you know me, I'm your biggest like cheerleader on please, oh, please get this done. That, and you promised that we might be judges, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it helps, you know.
Any questions? Betsy, you have a question. Hold on, let me unmute you. There we go.
I still see the mute icon. There we go. Yeah.
There we go.
Hey, Betsy.
Hi, thank you, Brandy. So I've been wondering about this screenwriting stuff. So tell me, start to finish, and I'm sorry if you're hearing that audible ding in the background. How long does it take to write screenwriting? Is it like
with screenwriting is a different thing from a reality TV show, because reality TV is unscripted. In other words, you're hopefully pulling it from real life, from filming as you go.
Okay.
So you're still going to edit the story, and that means that you're going to pull certain elements together that, and make a story out of it, but it's not scripted. Now, I am not the screenwriter par excellence. If you want to know how long it takes to write a good screenplay, you want to talk to Tanya Todd. She is the woman of the hour. She does that for a living. So, and among other things that she does. But as far as reality TV show, it's unscripted is what it's called. Now, I will tell you, and this is a secret, when I did the auditions for a reality TV show, the contract we were required to sign told us that they could assign roles to us and make us perform those roles, whether we wanted them or not.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was the contract you were signing, was that reality TV apparently is not as always reality as they would like it to be. And I can't tell you which show, because you were under pains of they could sue you for millions of dollars if you let that out the door.
Tanya, I believe it's your turn to speak. I was going to say something. I'm like, but I'm an amateur screenwriter, so go for it.
I just want to add to the whole myth of unscripted. There's a script. It just doesn't look like a movie script or a television script. There are concepts and bullet points and issues that they create. I actually fell prey to something like this when I first started acting. I was cast to audition for a role. It was supposed to be about Meghan and Harry. So I went to LA and, I'm there in the audition room, and it turns out it was a fake audition for people pretending to audition for a series that was already filmed, and they were using our real names and making us botch the auditions.
Wow. Yeah.
So we have to do a terrible audition to say why we didn't get the role that they had already cast to someone else. Like it was enlightening. So be careful when you venture into unscripted, because it's not real. It's not nearly as real as they claim.
Yeah, most of it's not. I wanted to create a reality series that was actually real with not manufactured drama, but the genuine drama that comes from living in a human existence, which,
And as to Betsy's question about how long it takes, it depends on how prepared you are before you start writing. If you already know this material, are you adapting it from something that already exists? Are you writing it from scratch? Are you a plotter? Are you a pantser? Every script is going to be different. Just like a book, like some people can knock out a book in 30 days. I am not one of those people. Do you have a question, Kim?
I do. I want to know, if you were going to take a writer's script, like perhaps I have an author that I publish who needs a script written, and I give that to you, will you work with that author first? Will you talk about important points within the story before you start writing?
I would. If I were to take on something like that, I would have to have that conversation, because as you and I have already discussed, there are certain things that are going to be cut. You can't have every precious darling that you have in a book. And a screenplay is a visual medium. So there aren't going to be long, luscious descriptions of the setting. There's going to be, studio, night, a chair and a table, it doesn't matter. The rich mahogany wood that's filling the room, you just don't get all of that atmosphere. There are ways to express it in shorthand, but you don't have quite the space that you would in a novel, and you can't have internal thoughts. So if the book is really taking place all inside of character's head, it can't possibly translate the film the way most people, the writer that usually envisions it.
Well, and I've often heard too that short stories do very well.
Yes, because there's less to cut.
Right, right.
I just wanted to back up Tanya on that because I think I've said it before. I just got finished the script, and I'm gonna tell you what made it into the script was nowhere close to what the book was. Like,
Did we have several discussions about that? I was like, cut it now.
I was
We
like,
don't need all of that. Cut it.
there's like tons of characters that didn't make it in. There's about 5 main characters that like carry the entire thing, and there are so many characters in the book. I mean,
Usually end up cutting or blending characters together.
exactly. And I was like, in order to do it, I actually had to blend one character together and give it one name. You know, like, so like
Give
there
them
was
one name,
give
yeah.
them one name because there was 3 different characters that kind of sort of were like the same person, but they were in different sections. And then I had to take pieces of them, blend them together, and make them one character that played throughout the film.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like it's work. It's so much chopping.
Yep.
It's
It is, and I want to
to
address something Kim was saying. It's expensive to get, if you go to someone and ask them to do the adaptation, it costs a lot of money because it's a lot of time to have to read through someone's entire book and then go through and read it again, marking the plot points and deciding where it will translate into a screenplay. It's not an easy thing to do. And people who do that deserve to be paid for the amount of work they put into it. Whereas if you find someone who pays your author to option it, they are asking for the privilege to do all of that work. And that's really the better way to go about it, unless the author wants to produce it themselves. If they have the money to produce it themselves, then yes, by all means, invest in someone like that.
we do know another person that can do it, but they're a couple $1,000s just to write the script.
Right.
I wanted to say that poetry on the side of short fiction is easier, and I like to do poetry into scripts because it's short pieces of work and you get to almost envision the characters and bring them up themselves as long as you can find the theme within the poetry.
All right. And so although we're having this really candid discussion, I think I used that word, right?
Yeah.
Candid discussion. We do have to move on to our next speaker, which will be Kim.
Yes. So today, now we're going to continue on our writing theme. Oh, wait, no, we did drop off in Hollywood for a second. And now we're coming back on to our writing theme, and we're going to talk to a publisher. Kim, it's all you.
Well, I feel like I stepped on Tanya's time. Jump right in if you feel you need to, Tanya.
It wasn't my time, it was Brandy's time.
Oh, heck.
I was
No,
just
you
writing
were
her a
fine.
note
I
to
had
say
wrapped
sorry,
up
I
my
didn't mean
10
to take
points,
over.
so.
Brady, did you want to say where you can be found?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Kim, just 1 second. Let Brandy say what she can be found.
Just look on the internet, you'll find. No, I'm on.
Definitely connect with Brandy because she's wonderful and supportive and amazing, and she knows so much and is so humble and will help just anybody with their journey. So you definitely want to
Yeah,
connect with her.
absolutely. If you want to direct email me, I'll type it in the chat for you. It's
But
just
also your
easier this
website.
way. And if you want to connect with me on Twitter, it's at writerbrandy. Yeah. And then I do have a website, but it stinks and I'm reworking it. So it's writeyurbook.today. So there you go.
I love how you said that. Thank you, Brandy. Now we
My pleasure. Anytime.
can move on to Kim Davis.
Hi, guys. Okay, my name is Kim Davis, and I'm the publisher, director, founder, everything at Madville Publishing. And our website is just like it sounds, Madville, MADVILLE, publishing.com. And so you'll find our books and stuff there. We're a nonprofit 501c3 press. And it was a job to get all that to happen with the IRS. Closed down for COVID, basically. We're pretty young. We're 4 years old. We started in 2018 and started trying to get our nonprofit status then. So anyway, it happened. We got it done. We publish fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, mostly literary fiction, but we're moving a little bit into fantasy. We're trying to start up a new imprint. We love the name Mad Fantasy, but we're not sure if we're going to be able to keep that as our name for it yet. but yeah, yeah, the problem is the fantasy aspect. We don't know if it could be taken the wrong way, right? So anyway, I am a writer, but let's see, I'm adapting another talk that was longer and I'm trying to cut it down on the fly here. I'm a writer.
Having a hard problem doing that.
We're
We
gonna
could just
ask
do
you
an
some
interview.
questions, right?
We could just do an interview.
And I know Tanya has
That way,
questions.
that'd be easier. Let's do it
Randy
that way,
has
and then we'll
questions.
cover the things you really want me to cover.
Oh God, no! Oh no,
Okay,
I feel terrible. You prepared.
So
No, I really wasn't that well prepared. I prepared for this one, earlier this summer, but carry on. Please ask.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I guess our first question is, how did you
How did you transfer from being a writer into actually wanting to own your entire own publishing
That's exactly
process?
what my question was.
Okay. So it's a process. I went back to grad school. I self-published first, and that led me into web design and all sorts of stuff. And that's been going on for like 20 years. But when my kids were finishing school, I started looking at the empty nest and went, oh, heck, I want to go back to grad school. So I went and got an MFA in creative writing, editing, and publishing. And while I was there, because of my web design skills, primarily, I think I got drafted in as a graduate assistant at Texas Review Press. And I ended up running the place for a couple of years because after I graduated, I got hired permanently to sit in there and be the assistant to the director. And he died. Like within a year, he died. And I was like the person who knew what was going on at the press, because he'd been running it by himself for 30 or 40 years and it was a mess. So I was the only one that could kind of pick out where everything was, And so I learned an awful lot very, very fast as far as the publishing side of things went. But because it's academia, I wasn't really eligible for the job on a permanent basis, right? They had to do this big national search and everything and bring someone in from outside. So they wanted me to stay and continue running it for whoever the new person was, but I chose not to do that. And then in the process, after I left there, a couple of my friends had books and they said, come on, do our books for us, help us do our books. And I went, well, that means I would have to start a business. And they pushed, and next thing you know, here I am running it. That was, the first books came out August 2018. And yeah, so since then we've published 50 odd, we're up at about 55 now, titles. Yeah, we're doing about 2 a month. And but let's get on to something important, like what am I going to do for an author? Why would an author want to come to me instead of doing it themselves? Okay, so what I can do for an author is put them in touch with or work with professional typesetters and designers. The book is going to look more professional because they're going to get to work with someone who does this all the time, right? And so we license, nice fonts, we buy art, we do things that especially a first-time author isn't going to know to do, right? We edit, we do a lot of editing. In fact, it goes through a manuscript that comes to us when someone submits a manuscript that we choose to read, and that we don't choose to read them all. And let me just digress a second and say, when someone sends me a manuscript, I want them to go look at my website first. And I usually say I don't take unsolicited manuscripts because we only can publish so many per year. And the ones, when I say unsolicited, if you know someone that knows me, if you've met me, if you have an agent, that's different, right? That's a little different. If you can say, hey, I met you at AWP, which is a big conference we attend every year. Or, I told you about my manuscript in the book fair or something, and there might have been 10 people that did that, but at least they've got a foot in the door, and you kind of need to have that because our calendar is just limited. We can only publish so many. So anyway, suppose you've written me a very brief not even, well, yeah, I need a little bit of a synopsis, but a short query letter, right? And I'm talking, I met you at AWP. I have a novel. It's 50,000 words. It's about a woman who loses her child, period. Or is, set in the present day or set in whatever. I don't need a lot of information. And I can tell you very, very quickly if it's going to fit the calendar that we've got coming up. And so I'm planning things a year out. Right now, I've got contracts out through September next year, for example. So if you go through me, it's going to be a year getting published, right? There's something to consider. What was the other thing? What else can I do for you? Why come to me? Okay, that's where we were.
You have a question.
Tanya did have her hand up. So
yes, ma'am. Tanya, please tell me.
Well, you started answering it, but I'm also curious, how can people determine what's on your wish list? And is there something that you've been craving that you haven't seen come across your inbox?
That's a great question. You do really ask very good questions, Tanya. We, on our About page, we talk a little bit about the fact that what we like. I did try to put in a paragraph to say what we like. We love regionalisms, and we've ended up with a lot of writers from Appalachia, the Appalachian region. Those are not the only people we publish, but they represent, that shows you right there, the fact that we have a huge nest of writers in one area shows you that because I know them, they send me their friends, right? This is the other thing. One of our writers, they'll get you in the door too. So we don't work a lot with agents, but we not completely opposed to it. Our wish list is that we like gritty realism, and it's pretty apparent. The best way to tell that is to look at our titles. You can see that our poetry is very introspective and lyrical, coming largely from Appalachia as it does. You can see that our fiction is really gritty realism, and we're trying to cover bases and have, we've got an anthology we've got coming up that's going to look for poverty stories from county line and city within the city limits. So basically we're trying to catch poverty stories, gritty realism stories from everybody, everywhere with that.
When you say you like things that straddle borders, what types of borders do you mean?
Oh my goodness, yes. Well, we're in Texas. We're based in Texas. And so when you say border, the first thing that comes to my mind is the borderlands here with Mexico, of course, with immigrant stories. We've got some stories like that coming. When I talk about myself personally and the crazy stuff I write, I worked on yachts for a lot of years. And so I traveled around from country to country. I like code switching, which if you aren't familiar with the term is
I'm Black, I'm familiar with the term.
But I think of it with Spanish because I tend to drop a little Spanish phrases in. And so, that we like that. We like that intersection of cultures. Does that make sense?
Love that. And then I have one more question. Let's say you are someone who's met you, and I'm just going to use myself as an example because it's the story that I have.
Okay.
I'm on submission right now with a story. I have an agent, but for someone that you have met like me, would you rather I submit it to you directly or had my agent do it? What's your preference there?
I prefer to work without the agent in between, really. I find them annoying and bothersome.
Why is that?
It's just probably that my experiences with a particular agent weren't good, and that's unfair to all the other agents. So I'll just say that right up front. Okay. I had a lot of agent experience.
Well, I would like to introduce you to my agent separately, just because I think the questions that you've been asking about how to get a book turned into a movie, I think she could help you with being able to pitch that idea to
We've
producers
got
better.
3 right now that desperately need to figure out what to do with themselves because they belong in Hollywood and we just don't know how to get them there. So
Okay, so I am going, if with your permission, I'm going to give her your email address for that.
yes, please do.
Well, I hope you have learned a lot today about how to maybe get that script rolling. Kim, I hope that's happened for you.
Oh, yes.
I just want to say I'm noticing that like we were talking about the West, and I think what we have like Texas in the house,
We have Texas,
Oklahoma,
Texas.
Las Vegas. Yeah,
I think we're in the West. Like we're just on the East Coast, but we live in the West. I guess we belong there.
I'm in Illinois. I'm in right in the middle.
Oh right.
Right? That's true, Lisa. That's very, very
Wait,
true.
You said Chicago, Illinois?
I'm in Illinois, but not Chicago. No.
Yeah. So I mean, you're right. You're the gateway to the West, though.
Yeah, you
That's
are.
right. I'm right on the Mississippi River, right in the middle of the state. So I'm like, centrally located everywhere.
Is she next?
You are the
No.
gatekeeper.
I am the gatekeeper.
She is the gatekeeper. I love it. I love it very much.
So Betsy, before I
But
don't know.
Wendy, did you have a question?
Well, I was going to say, Kim, as far as you're looking for gritty poverty stories, if somebody had a submission to send you, where would they do that?
Okay, well, we have a submittable page where we have our open contests. It is accessible through our website. So if you go to madvillepublishing.com, there's a submissions guidelines button or something up there in the menu, submission. I don't know what it says, but it says something about submissions. And that will take you to our what's open at submittable right now. And so the short fiction, wait a little bit. We haven't got that one up. It's going to be a week
Okay.
or two.
Yeah, I am literally the author of the Poverty Diaries, so it was
You
right up my
definitely
alley.
need to submit. You
It was
need
so
to
funny.
submit.
As soon as you said it, we put it in the chat like, oh, that sounds like the Poverty Diaries.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. No, we've got coming. We've got a poetry anthology about Dolly Parton poems, and we've got a that one just closed, and we've got then right now a poetry book anthology. We want a full length collection anthology that's open. Not anthology, sorry. We one author, full length collection. Okay, I'll hush and get out of the
I
way.
don't feel silly because when you said like what you submit, because I did email her off the cuff one day. I was like walking around. I was like, you know what I want to do? I want to submit a book to Madville Press. So I immediately just asked. Did not think whatsoever. Tanya, you're here. So it was like that whole thing when we had with that lady, we interviewed her, and I found out that she like ran the place, and I was like, dude, can I pitch a reality show?
It was so horrible.
Yeah, it was like pretty much the same thing, but in email format. And then she was like, yeah, sure, she could submit it. And then now I heard what you take, and I was like, well, that was just a dumb submission.
Any more questions for Kim before we move on to our next speaker?
Lisa, I just want to say you look amazing.
Yes, you did.
Oh, thank you.
Goodness.
I got pretty for you guys.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Brushed my hair.
All right, any more questions for Kim? Because then I have the last question. Okay, so Kim, where can people find your books or more about your press? Because I know you said it several times, but I like to say it again.
Well, and I'll tell you, we also have on Twitter, we're at Madville Pub. And then that's also I think Instagram, Facebook, we're there as Madville Publishing, I think. And our website is madvillepublishing.com.
All right, thank you so much for coming on today. I hope you're sticking around, Kim, so we can learn some more stuff. And we are moving on to our next speaker.
That's live.
That's live. It will be Lisa Orban.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa Orban. I'm the owner and founder of Indies United Publishing House. We are unique in the publishing world. We're a hybrid. Basically, think co-op. All of our authors work collectively together as a group, and we bring in artists and editors and beta readers. Sorry, I had a blank spot there for a second. But basically all the things that you need to get your book together, and we brought them together into a group, and we work together. So unlike a traditional publishing house, we don't take any of your royalties. You guys are in control. All of our authors are in control of their distribution channels. We charge nominal fees to, for various aspects, like an advertising fee that's, $10 a month. So we're not breaking the bank for anybody. So we're really a good fit for people that enjoy being an indie author, but would like the support of a house. So if you have a problem, if you need help, you're confused on something, you can come to me. And if I don't know, I have this big group of people that we can consult with. And our authors are very interactive with each other and support each other and help each other with book launches and anything else that is going on. We do a quarterly, I'm working on it right now, a quarterly literary magazine that all of our authors submit to. It's free. It comes out basically winter, fall, spring, summer, and I'm working on the fall one right now. And out of those stories, we publish a yearly anthology book and that goes back to supporting our authors. We're also working on an anthology charity book right now for an environmental group. That's going to be, it's a disaster story about what if the Yellowstone caldera blew up, what would happen to everybody. So everyone's writing about from different aspects of what they thought it would be like for those people. But we currently have 60 authors and about 180 books, I believe. Not all of those are published yet. They're on the list to be published. And but we do basically a book launch a week. We do accept open submissions. They go through a process, and you can find out all about it on our website if you go to indiesunited.net on our frequently asked questions page. So if you're an established author and you have a lot of good reviews, you tend to kind of just slide right in. If you're a brand new author, you've never written anything before, we do have beta readers and a vetting process. And, we'll let you know if it'll work or not, essentially. Sometimes we get works that are interesting, and we send them back and go, this needs some work. It needs a plot, things like that. I had one person that submitted me, he didn't send me paragraphs. It was all single sentences. It was a mess. Anyway, it was something. But usually if we do reject you, it's because we'll always give you a list of suggestions why. Things that need to be fixed. And if you fix all those things, then you can resubmit to us. It doesn't cost anything to submit your book. We don't penalize anyone who takes our advice and resubmits. We're, pretty happy with that one. And we take all kinds of books. We have children's authors, we have how-to books, we have mysteries, we have fantasy, nonfiction, memoirs, pretty much if it exists, we probably have something in our library. So we have a little bit of something for everyone. Our only criteria is we want good books. That's it. The genre to us isn't the main focus. We want to get authors out in front of people and help them establish themselves as writers and help them build up their social media and build up their presence online and try and help them become known, through a lot of repetition. We do a lot of fun things with our authors, and we occasionally have contests or different things that we do to try and get more author reader participation. We've got a new one coming out next month. It's going to be Name That Book, based on an image. that our authors are recreating. And so we should get a whole bunch of interesting things from that. But it's really about, we're there to help our authors, you know, find their footing, make them more confident writers. And so we're a little bit different than the most publishing houses, but our authors really enjoy being with us and have a lot of nice things to say, which is nice, you know, because a lot of publishers like, yeah, we're there with them, but you know, don't really want to be. So, you know, most of my authors are pretty happy, you know, they'll sing my praises, and they call me Saint Lisa, the goddess of indies. So, you know, I'll accept that. Does anyone have any questions?
Anyone
Oh,
questions?
Yes, before I start rambling.
Before we start
Yeah.
asking about
Oh,
questions?
I'm already rambling. This is it, you know.
I have a question, Saint
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Goddess
Oh,
of
thank
Indies.
you.
Do your books have traditional venues where they're, you know, distribution? Do they get into bookstores? Do they get
Yeah.
into libraries?
Yeah. All of our books get a Library of Congress control number. And we help them get their books out. And I can't, you know, a library, if it's going to have a book or not, it's really up to the individual library. I can't force them to do it, but we do help them try and get their books into libraries. And we do all we can to, you know, get them out into bookstores and everything else. Our authors are responsible, you know, partly for getting their books out there. It's a co-op. So we you know, I
But
work
they have a
hand in hand
traditional ISBN number?
with a what?
They have a traditional ISBN number?
Oh yeah. We have an imprint, Indies United Publishing House. We have our own imprint. And like I said, we have Library Congress control numbers. So all of our books are in the Library of Congress. You know, we do a lot of the things that traditional publishing houses do. We just do it slightly different. Our authors have a lot of freedom that isn't always there for in a more traditional publishing house. So if you're looking for a little more freedom to express yourself, we don't dictate what kind of books you have to write. I've had an author that came in with a very beautiful poetry and watercolor book. She did 2 of those, and then she said, you know, I want to do mysteries. and she wrote a really interesting medical mystery book, mystery thriller, and I was fine with that. So, you know, you're not locked into a particular genre. I've had adult authors that have ventured into children's tales, and you know, we've got a lot of interesting authors from all walks of life, from all over the country, from outside of the country. We're international. So, you know, it's
Said one of your goals is to give them more opportunity to get themselves out in the world and more maybe publicity options, right?
Yes.
Well, I would like to extend an offer to you and to Kim for you to contact me. I run an author meet and greet that happens online every month. I
Okay.
would love to feature some of your authors.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be awesome.
We have a built-in audience. They come expecting to listen to readers and buy their books. I can't promise that anyone will buy, but I
Yeah.
can promise that you will have someone listening.
Yeah, I can't, you know, we get a lot of views a month on the website. But I can't guarantee sales. So you know, some of our authors do exceedingly well, and some struggle. And a lot of it just depends on the particular taste of people coming in and what's the newest fad. And right now it's historical romances, apparently. And
Well, I think we are booked through February of next year.
okay.
So the sooner you email me, the sooner I can get some of your authors on the list for next
Okay.
year. And same for you, Kim, which I should have extended sooner. I'm sorry, Kim.
May I ask, can we get somebody please on the list, Tanya, since we're here? Dr. Mike would be fun to hear from again.
Oh, I love Dr. Mike.
Yeah, just
Have you
have him
seen-
email me so I can get him on the schedule.
He's one of my authors.
Yep.
Yeah, he
Sweetheart.
just wrote a young adult book with his daughter. And it's Annie Abbott. It's just amazing. He's so much fun. He's one of my favorite authors.
So
Yay.
Tanya and Brandy, when we're at the Vegas We're
Writers
doing
retreat
writers retreat with him.
with him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's where you
Any
go.
more
Yeah, right.
questions? Y'all?
Yes, when are we having the next Vegas Writers Retreat? Speaking
Well, maybe 2023, y'all. We just trying to make sure that nobody will get sick.
Yeah.
Because
that
you know
means-
we're in close quarters in that.
Yeah.
Tiny
Tiny
little
little
conference room. We're in close quarters now. We get real close.
Yeah, we've been trying to, right before COVID hit, we were making plans for all of my authors to get together, you know, physically together. And COVID hit and all those plans went away. And now we're working on the next time that we can try and do this. And one of my authors apparently has connections to someone in Mexico that has a mansion. So
Jack,
that
why not October, I don't know, 15th? I'm thinking around the 15th in Atlanta, Georgia.
Really? Well,
Oh, when it's hot and miserable, yeah.
Build your network.
Watch out for Southern Festival of Books. It's right around that time. Watch out for that. Don't coincide with that because you'll miss a lot of our good guys that are going to be there in October.
Very
Really?
nice.
Oh.
Very nice. Well, see, look, y'all, we learn so much on our own conferences. Don't we learn a lot on our own conferences? We truly do. I do have a question, though.
Yes.
As we know a little bit of your background story
Mhm.
about how you really got messed over by an editor. Would you like to share that story and share a little bit about how people can avoid that?
Okay, so I wrote my first book and I published it, and I realized I had made mistakes because I was a first-time author. I had tried doing traditional. I got, I don't know, 30 or so really beautifully written rejection letters. This is a great story. We loved it. Everyone in the office loved it. We all read it. We're not going to buy it, you know. So memoirs are not, you know, what's on right now. So anyway, I got a lot of help from people online that read my story and absolutely loved it. They're like, you know, it needs some help. And so the second time I wrote a book, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it right this time. I learned from my mistakes, and I hired an editing company that had, I did my research. They didn't have any, bad reviews on them. People said good things about them. No black marks with the BBB, blah, blah, blah. I did my due diligence. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pick these guys. And I sent off my book, and then it got delayed. And I had already set up all the stuff for like the pre-order stuff. Everything was set up. The launch was set up. And then they got it to me less than a month before it was supposed to launch. And I'm looking through it and I'm like, this can't be it. I can see mistakes. I can see my mistakes. I'm dyslexic. I tend to switch words around. I, for some reason, always write defiantly instead of definitely. Don't know why. It's just quirks that I know, that I have, in which why I need an editor. So anyway, I contacted them. I'm like, hey, I think you sent me my original manuscript back, not the edited one. And they're like, oh no, that's the edited one. No, it's not. They're like, oh no, there's just a few mistakes in there. I think we only counted 2. I'm like, oh no. I've met me. There's got to be at least 100 in here, at least 100 in here. And back and forth going around, and the book, they had actually literally done nothing to it. I paid them half up front, and I'm like, you're not getting the other half. You didn't edit this book. You didn't do anything to it. You kept it. I was supposed to have it 4 months before the launch, and they got it to me a month before the launch. And it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And I went online and said many bad things about them, so everyone knew. And how I really got into the whole publishing part of it after the writing was after publishing a couple of books of my own. I learned a lot, and I had started to kind of gather up this group with me, and I was starting to get mad. And part of what made me mad was there were so many amazing indie authors out there that had written just phenomenal books that, couldn't get the attention they deserved. because of Google Analytics and, and basically you're one voice, out of millions who are trying to vie for readers' attention. And I started to kind of, I said, someone needs to do something about this situation. And then I realized maybe I should do something about this situation. And so I got a hold of this group and said, hey, I have this idea. Am I insane? And they went, yeah, you're insane, but it's a great idea. And so I started Indies United. It was months, almost a year in planning. And we tried to do this something very different. Like I said, we're really there more for like indie authors. We'll take second editions if you've already published and you want to move over to us. And one of the nice things is if you go from indie to us and you don't do anything else, your book is automatically ranked higher on Amazon and everywhere else. And it has to do with the imprint and how the analytics work. But then you get 60 authors, behind you, as well as me and this group of people that we have to help really get you noticed and get you out there and really start to, because 60 voices can make a lot more noise than one. We'll, during an average book launch, we'll reach 1 million, 2 million people, just directly from us, and then whatever subsequently comes from that. So with the shares and everything else. So it's, it's different and it's not for everyone. Some people just want to write a book and hand it over to someone and say, here, it's your problem now. Our authors are a little more hands-on. They want that control, and that's great. They needed somewhere to call home, and we've given it to them.
Since I want to say, because this is also about like Hollywood and writing,
Mhm.
but I put like a little thing out there for myself, because that's me. You can hear the rest of that lovely story in our documentary, Create, Aspire, Inspire, where Lisa pretty much carries the documentary.
She really does. No, she really does. I mean, and
I like to talk.
Yes. And the laugh is just great.
Yes, and the laugh is great.
And
So-
she does a little dance with her book. So she's
Yeah.
like,
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
I'm just telling you, I am not above doing anything stupid to make book sales. Okay. I have been chased by Canadian geese. All right. I have put myself in harm's way to get people to notice us. And I am not above being stupid or getting hurt, as long as it's mild.
or traveling to crazy places, which
or
is
traveling to
documentary.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm in it for my authors, man. I'm committed to really helping them. And I'll even, and my authors have a lot of say in how my company runs. I send out weekly updates to everyone of all of our authors, and everyone gets input and can suggest ideas on things that they think might be good or where we should advertise. And, if they have good ideas, and, so it's not just me, it's, we're a cooperative, we work together and collaboratively, and it's really nice. It's kind of a, it's a little bit of a family kind of feeling. And it's something you really don't find a lot in a lot of places, actually. So I'm pretty proud of my company and my authors. They're great guys.
And thank you so much for coming on. Tell us one more time where we can find more about you and your authors.
You can find us at Indies United on Facebook, at Indies United Publishing on Facebook, at Indies United Pub on Twitter, and pretty much anywhere else. If you just put in Indies United or Indies United Publishing House, you'll find us. And our website is indiesunited.net. I can do this.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on. Hopefully you can stick around if you have any more questions for Lisa. I'm sure she will answer them in the chat. And our next speaker is Tanya Todd,
who's been telling us about script adaptation, and go figure, that's not what she's talking about.
But if she's on the internet, we won't be mad.
Be so happy.
So thank you, ladies, for having me again. I appreciate every time you do one of these, and I learn something each and every time. So for me, every time you ask, it's like, great, I get to go learn stuff for free. And all I have to do is present for 15 minutes. So thank you for that. So I am Tanya Todd. I am an author, actress, screenwriter, and sensitivity reader with ties to the literary, theater, and filmmaking worlds. Lack of diversity in media fuels much of what I do, including today's discussion. So I think it's pretty clear that women, people of color, queer, trans, and other marginalized groups are not equally represented on screen. As a screenwriter, you have the power to affect change, but unlike a novel, filmmaking is a collaboration. Unless you are casting, directing, and producing the project yourself, you aren't in complete control.
That's upsetting. Tanya?
You can't hear me?
Okay, you froze for a minute. Now you're back. Now you're back.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it was us. Who knows? It may have been us.
So I'm going to offer 5 tips on how to improve diversity and inclusivity in your screenplay. And I'll try to run through these quickly so that we have plenty of time for questions. Tip number 1 would be to be intentional, which simply means to make the effort. If you're watching this segment, you're probably already doing this. Think about whether each character's race, identity, sexual preference matters to the overall story. If you think it does, ask yourself why, and then examine your reasons. If you swap out the gender or the race, etc., or any of those identity markers, how does it change the plot? So just really be mindful of that and be intentional with it. Tip number 2 is, if race does matter, list it in the character introduction. This way, casting knows what is needed. If the specific race does not matter, mark it as any ethnicity. Communicate to the casting team that anyone can play the role, because when you leave it blank, assumptions are often made. Tip number 3 is to be mindful of pronouns. If the character's gender doesn't impact the story, avoid using any pronouns in your descriptions. In most cases, smaller roles can be played by anyone. Let casting find the best person without a pronoun bias. Tip number 4 is to be consistent. Listing specifics about a character only when that person is not straight, white, and cis lends to otherizing marginalized people. And that's true for novels as well as screenplays. If you are only going to describe the way a person looks, if they are not white, then you are otherizing everyone else in that story. It also contributes to the assumption that a character is straight, white, and cis until otherwise stated. Treat all characters the same. If it's important that they are white, list that characteristic just like you would for everyone else. Tip number 5, pay attention to character names. Do they all sound Anglo-Saxon? Use names from a variety of backgrounds so that the casting team visualizes a diverse cast from the start. And then I have a bonus tip for you. Have trusted people read the script and ask for feedback. You go into it with all this mindfulness, make these choices, but then have someone read it, get their feedback, bring it to your critique group. There are screenwriter critique groups too, or hire a sensitivity reader if you're concerned. And that's it. Those are my 5 quick tips.
Tanya always has the greatest tips. Like, and she just comes and she like puts them down and we're just, wow, that was so easy. Why didn't I think of that?
There was like 3 of them on there. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Why didn't I think of that?
So I just want to say this one thing, Tanya, just one thing before we get to any questions, which is, if we need to make sure that the names don't sound all Anglo-Saxon, I want to say that I want to point out that the names that I write in my scripts have always been good then. Horrible, but not Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah, she names people very, very horribly.
In the next script, I named somebody
Pro. Like,
yeah, I don't think you have to worry about having them all sound Anglo-Saxon.
But Pro.
So every time I just want to say, you have encouraged me to continue on my terrible naming characters.
I don't think it's terrible.
Every time
it's great when stories have unique character names.
Garbleton, you still like Garbleton?
No, I never liked that name.
Wait a minute,
But I
wait a
like
minute.
the practice. I like the practice of using unusual characters.
Someone else had something to say. I'm sorry.
No, did you say Gobbleton?
No, Garbleton. Garbleton, like you
Was
gargle
it Rex Garbleton?
Yes, Garbleton.
GRABLEDON. Garble.
None. Garbleton.
Okay. I
Not Anglo-Saxon
I
though.
don't know, that would definitely work
Kim.
in a comedy. I mean, I'm sorry, that would work great in a comedy.
Oh my word. I was like, Garbleton? I cannot believe you. Okay.
Okay, that might be wrong. But Pearl I thought was kind of cool.
I'm
you
not gonna
gonna use
ask what you were doing when you came up with that name. I don't want to know. It's just better.
I'm pretty positive
know,
it
so,
wasn't
like,
legal. Just kidding.
I
But
was
she
sitting
couldn't
there-
spell it the same way twice ever.
No, it was just really hilarious. And this other one called Prel. Every time I read it Prel, like, you know, like the hand sanitizer. And I was like, no, it's Prel. But everyone's just gonna be like, hand sanitizer? Someone names someone after hand sanitizer?
I don't know. It sounds like a very bougie name to me.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's how it
I
happened.
am Prel.
Hey, you can pull it off, honey.
Exactly
You
the
got it.
character. That's the character.
See?
He's always like, I am awesome. But he like is not.
Anyway, go on. So anyone have questions for Tanya?
Yeah, I
It's
do.
not.
If not, okay, I have a couple. Then
Hi, Susan.
as you were
Hi,
talking about inclusivity, but how if we
Wait,
have
Susan
book
has a
and
question.
It wasn't quite as inclusive as we want to.
Am I
We
muted?
were writing a
No,
script.
I can hear you, but I don't think they can.
It looks
Oh.
like they froze.
Hello? Why is our internet acting up?
I don't know.
I don't know. Susan has a question and then you can ask
Oh,
yours, Steve.
Susan, yes, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
now Zoom just told us it's unstable. That's you.
Am I making it unstable? That's crazy.
No. I hear you. Please ask your question.
I hear you fine, Jim. It's not you.
No, I loved your tips, and I often think about these things. Oh, now you've moved.
They just made me the host.
Yes, thank you.
Woo,
Woo. We were in there like, did we make it at
It's my conference now.
Yeah.
Actually, Tanya, go with it. Go. Let her answer that.
So
With an evil laugh.
what you're saying is be inclusive without calling attention to being inclusive.
Yes, because it's not about checking
All these people,
boxes.
that person is Black. Not to do that, because I have seen that in some books where you think,
Yeah.
"God, they're really going out of their way.
And it feels kind of icky, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels really icky.
It feels like, here you are, you're included. That's not how you want it to be. You want it to be a reflection of the real world.
Okay.
We don't live in a homogenous society. So unless your book is specifically about how, wow, everyone here is exactly the same and it's creepy, you probably don't want to have everyone around the character exactly the same as the main character. And I think it's okay to write about people who are different from you because I think everyone is different from us. Not all people who identify the same way are exactly the same. I mean, there's that whole danger of a single story.
Right, of a
There
stereotype.
are so many different queer stories. There are so many different trans stories. There are so many different Asian stories and Black stories and white stories. So why can't you write about someone who looks different from you? But do your research. Make sure you know what you are talking about. You can't have a Black character going out with white hair practices because that's just not how the world works. Like they could not do that. I use that as an example because I had someone who wrote a historical fiction story and had the character straightening her hair for the first time. And the other Black characters in the story just gave her the stuff, didn't teach her how to do it. And that would destroy her hair. Like you can't just do that. But if you've never straightened your hair, you may not realize how dangerous it can be if you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. So do your research, read about other people, read stories from and about whatever type of characters you're trying to tell.
Okay, thank you.
And that's
Yeah.
true for screenplays too. Like you still want to read about the people you're trying to write about, even if you're writing a screenplay. And if the race doesn't matter, then there's no reason to put it.
Well, yeah, that's what I notice is that they're writing a story and then, oh, I've got to put
Right, it's probably because that's how they envisioned the person, but you have to ask yourself, why does that matter? Because sure, in a book, write however the characters present to you, but that's not how it works when you're making a film. You are not the only person who gets a voice in how that character looks. And so you don't want to exclude people from even being able to audition for that role because, well, when you wrote the character, it just felt like a white person to you. Chances are you're not going to have the say in who gets cast. So why exclude people on the outset? Just put any ethnicity, provided that that's the case. If the story is specifically about this person's interaction with the world because of their race, as opposed to other people that they're interacting with, then of course you need to put that, and you need to put the races of the other people in that story. Just be mindful of it. If it doesn't matter, let it not matter.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
You're welcome. And what was your question, Jade?
Oh, I was going to ask the question, if we are writing a book, we have written this book and we want to write a screenplay, but we didn't have as much diversity as we wanted to in a book. How can we change that on the screenplay and still make it feel like true to our book?
Keep the internal characters the same, their personalities the same. Mm-hmm. But if you are actually adapting from a book to a screenplay, you can change the ethnicity of those characters, or you can do what I said, which is put any ethnicity and then leave it up to the people who are making the movie to determine who they cast.
I have a question that's definitely, you know, it's always tailored to me.
Goggles.
Recently, writing a screenplay, and the book has a black guy, but there's an actor attached that's Caucasian.
How do we do?
How do you do it? Because you recognize as you're writing, things just don't
add up.
They don't like things that he would say that's important to the story would not be said by somebody who has no idea about the culture. How do you do
why is that person attached if he doesn't fit the role?
Absolutely. See, that's a really good question.
Oh my God, I never thought about that.
There we are. Answers. Tanya always has answers.
So who determined that this person would be attached to the story? Did you make that call because you just want to hire the actor?
Yes, because they come with a title. Come with an award that they already won. And then pitch
a different role that makes more sense for him.
Absolutely. Okay, love it. Love it.
I love you on that. That's a much easier fix. Give me my script back, by the way.
Just give him a
I haven't even looked
character.
at it yet.
I mean, you could make him a supportive character, right? You know,
Yeah.
you want to keep the actor.
Give him a juicy role.
Well, we would
be proud.
Absolutely. So
thank you, Tanya, for fixing
thank you.
that.
Anybody has questions for Tanya? And if not, we're gonna make her say all the places where you can follow her,
including the podcast that's not airing right now, but
and
including
the
podcast.
page. In the page.
You can find me across social media at Ms. Tanya Todd. That's MSTONYATODD. Join my newsletter at www.mstanyatodd.com. And you can find me on IMDb under just Tanya Todd. My podcast that I did last year is the 52 Love Podcast. You can find that on YouTube or any other place that podcasts are heard.
It's so fun.
Just because it's not airing anymore doesn't mean you can't listen to it.
Exactly.
So thank you so much, Tanya. And I guess if there's no more questions, but y'all think of going for her, I am sure she'll be around and you can put them in the chat and we will move on to our next guest.
And Kim, I'm thinking you could ask these questions to our next guest. The questions you've been asking to our next guest. Jade, you want to do that?
Is BD Watkins?
I'm sorry, I couldn't mute myself. I'm sorry.
No, that's all good.
I don't know what happened.
Every time your picture shows up, I'm like, oh, she's so amazing.
Fabulous.
How did you get it to do that?
Everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Can everyone hear us?
Wow.
Yes. I can
Okay,
hear her.
good. BD, I'll let you take it away. We're going to mute ourselves and hopefully our internet is still stable. So, you know, we'll be around. And Tanya, your co-host. Bye.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. I am B. Danielle Watkins. I am a screenwriter, author, producer, director, actress, and currently the chief programmer for I Elevate Plus TV. I am here today to talk to you all about pitching and getting your shows or your movies on these modern streaming platforms. Ultimately, my job at I Elevate Plus TV is to curate all of the content. And I also go through licensed content. So as people have already produced their content and they're bringing it to us, I am the one that they bring it to and I watch and I either say yes or no. I also sit in the rooms while people are pitching for us to produce their work. One of the biggest things that we see that is lacking, that I always want to tell people first off, is don't think that you have to have this immaculate pitch deck. You have to have an immaculate concept. People spend so much time wanting this pitch deck to look like it came straight out of Los Angeles and the story sucks. That doesn't benefit either of us. It doesn't benefit you as a creator. It doesn't benefit my time as someone who can give you some money. Ultimately, when you're pitching, you want to make your product sound like it is something other than something we've ever seen before. And you have to believe that. You have to believe in your own work to ensure that I am going to believe in your work. And that is for any executive, right? That's for anybody sitting on a panel listening to anything. Should it be a book? Should it be a TV story? Should it be a movie? If you don't believe in it, why will I? And that's the reality of it. Your confidence will sell me before anything else. Bottom line, your confidence in your story, you could have a story about a zebra and a can of sparkling water. And if you believe in it, I'm gonna be like, well, damn, I ain't never heard that before. Well, let me talk to me more about it. Tell me how we got here. But if you don't show us that you have the vigor, what's the point? Oftentimes, we're gonna say yes to anybody who is creative because we're in a position to give people opportunities. That is my stance at our company. I can't say that other companies will be the same, but what I can say is the formula doesn't change no matter where you go. You still need to be confident. You still need to present. You still need to believe, because all it takes is one yes. They don't always say no because they don't like it. Sometimes it doesn't fit in the budget, or sometimes they have to say no because I heard something like that and we already said yes. So you also have to release the fact of negativity, and that no is always negative. Sometimes no just means not right now. And you can come back with that same story next year and I got an extra $7,000 and it's like, you know what? Yeah, we can go. But some people take no and they internalize it and they cry for weeks and they act like they're not good anymore and they don't want to write and they're done. And we have to get out of the mindset of that as well, because yes, you only need one. And you can get 1,000 no's over 25 years. Who cares? You have to have the perseverance to know that you, again, believe in your work and you want that work on these platforms. There are platforms, so many coming out now, right? Everybody has their own station. Roku has put it in a position where anybody can get video on demand. It's everywhere. My suggestion is to get on as many spaces as you can, because each platform has its own audience. And if you can penetrate the entire algorithm of what that looks like, all it's about at this point is getting eyes on your work. So if Roku has 5 million stations, which it does, and you're on 100 of them, that means that it's about 5 million people, because each one of these people on these 100 stations are able to at least access your work. Some of them, you have to have a third-party distributor. You have to have a distribution company to get to. Other ones you can directly email, like us, and say, hey, can you take a look at my work? What do you think? And Somebody will say yes, somebody will say no. And if you have a distribution company, they do the work for you. And distribution companies have access to places like Tubi, because Tubi has now stopped taking unsolicited work from filmmakers. So has Amazon Prime, IMDb TV. Some distributors have access to things like Hulu and Peacock and all these other what are considered to be quote unquote major streaming platforms. Those do not take unsolicited. You cannot even find how to submit to things like Peacock and Hulu. Trying to think what else I have prepared to tell you all. I don't know. Who has any questions?
Kim, we know you have some questions
About contract
and some
options?
other stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of authors right now. Like one I can name is Sanju, Wander Chang with Sanju. It's a historical fiction set in Korea. And I know that this one is going to end up, this is the kind of expensive one maybe they don't want to talk about because it's historical, right? But still, it's a fabulous story, and everybody has been thinking cinema. They want to see her, all the people, the editors, everybody's worked on the book want to see her go and get a big deal, right? Get a movie, right? So I don't know how we even begin with that. We're trying, we want to put it in the hands of people, and we talk to people we know. Anyway, question, where do you start with something like that?
Start with
we have a book, we have a novelist, and then just who do we talk to next? What's our best next move with a book?
So it hasn't been adapted to screen yet?
Not been adapted. We're starting from scratch.
Okay, so that's the first thing. You have to have a script before you can even think about anything else.
Okay,
that's the very first thing.
So we should hire a scriptwriter. Is that what you suggest first?
If the author doesn't want to do it, yes.
Okay. And then
some authors want to do it, but some authors are unable to connect from the work and understand that everything from the novel can't go and you have to add and all of that. So if you have
in this case, I don't think that that's really a problem. I think she understands how it all works. But so we hear things like treatments and pitch decks. Those are things. Can we start with something like that first? Just doing a treatment and then
I only wouldn't, because then they say, "Oh my God, I love it. Where's the script?"
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, "Oh, well, we didn't do that.
Didn't do that yet." Yeah.
Now you're deflated because now you've got them on a high and they're going to ask for everything. So yes, do the treatment, do the pitch deck, do all of it, but you have to have a script.
Right. Okay.
Because treatment is the condensed version of the script.
Okay. Right. Of course, because you have to have the scenes, you have to figure out what scenes you're using and all the rest of it. Right. Okay.
So like I said, for me, and that's just me as a screenwriter, me as a producer, the script has to come first.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. And then, okay. I had another one. I had an author come to me with someone already wants to option the book. We're not even finished producing it yet. And asked me to put together a contract, put together an option contract. So it seemed odd to me that it originates from me. But where should that contract originate from?
It should originate from the person who wants to option it. They should have their terms already set and saying, "Hey, we want to option your story. Here is our terms." Why would it come from you?
Yeah, that's what I thought was odd. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, that's what I know right this second. That's what's working. That's what's working at our press at the moment.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Susan, Betsy, Kim,
Brandy.
Sorry,
A lot of people unmuted, so we're just not sure who wants to have the next question.
I was just gonna say, so if we have done a screenplay, if we turned our book into a screenplay, what would be the best way to pitch the book to you, or the screenplay rather?
If you're looking for it to be produced solely by a streaming company or production company, usually how they do it is they'll take the synopsis, or if you have a pitch deck, you send that first. And if they're interested, then they request the script and then they request a meeting. So if you know of someone who is like, you're like, I think I would want them to produce my script, or I think I want to be here. All you have to do is walk out on that limb and send it. Because one or two things are going to happen. They're going to respond or they're not.
Okay. Well, this is probably true.
Yes.
Okay.
And then go.
Okay, so now we have Susan, did you have a question?
I did. I don't know. I keep muting and unmuting and disappearing and reappearing. And
It's fine. Just ask your
You're like
question.
the friendly apparition now.
yeah. So how would one go about, I have a book, but how would I go about getting it turned into a script?
If you don't know anyone that can turn it into a script, you just search for a screenwriter that's willing. That's what happens to most of us. Somebody contacts us out of the blue and it's like, hey, I have an idea for a script, or I have a book. And, do you think you could write it? And, you start talking, you go back and forth. My suggestion would be, don't just hire anyone, hire someone that gets excited about the story.
Yeah.
Because they care about it differently. It's one thing to just hire somebody to write because they can write. It's another thing to hire somebody that is good at what they do and interested in what you're doing.
So do a little background check on the people.
Absolutely. And have conversations. It's okay to talk to 10 people, 10 writers. That's okay. It's a lot of us out here, and everything's not for everybody, but you always want to protect your story. And part of protection is ensuring that the person that you trust with it has the same understanding and the same heart for it that you do.
Thank you.
I have a question, and for once, it's not about me.
Wow. Miracles do happen.
It's not that funny. Anyway, you've worked on both coasts, like at Los Angeles and Atlanta. I wanted to know what is different about working on either coast, mostly
And
Atlanta.
how can we pitch? Do we have to pitch differently?
Yes, we definitely want to know that. And then I want to know what else we should, like, as authors going into this world, what should we be wary of?
Everything is different everywhere. New York is different than Georgia, that's different than LA, that's different than Vegas, that's different than France. Everything is different because the cultures are different. Los Angeles is a lot of hustle and bustle because everybody in LA thinks they're something, right? Everybody in LA is walking around with their chip on their shoulder because they've done quote unquote something. New York City isn't as bougie, as I would call it. However, they're so ingrained in theater, in the arts, it comes off different. Being in Georgia, it's more who you know, because it's still budding. And it's a lot of, not necessarily, I wouldn't call it nepotism, but it is definitely a lot of the in crowd and the out crowd. Things to be wary of when you're walking into this is everything that looks like it's amazing probably isn't. Things that sound like it's too good to be true probably is. And don't do anything until they give you the money. If they're going to promise you $30,000, don't say action, don't write a word, don't do anything until you at least have a deposit. Because a lot of times people put the cart before the horse and they're bigger than their britches and they make promises they cannot keep. And you're the one stuck picking up the pieces because it's on you, not them.
Wow.
Thank you so
Those are
much for
some
that information.
very great tips for all of us to keep in mind. Let's see. Anybody else has any more last questions for
Tanya, do you have a question? Because you always have a question.
Or Brandy, because they always have people. Everyone always has
No,
good questions.
Brandy asked a question. Kim asked. Susan asked.
I just wanted to second all of that. Like, she nailed it. You can't just go into these situations thinking, oh, wow, they want me. Let me just do all this stuff and make all these announcements. When you don't have a contract, you don't have
any money, you don't have a piece of paper saying that they are committed to this project, just keep your mouth shut, keep your enthusiasm going until people have actually done what they said they're going to do.
All right.
Don't celebrate until you have it in your hand, you know?
Absolutely.
Count your chickens.
That's right.
Okay, so BD, where can people find I Elevate, find out more about you, read your books, anything you actually want to share?
Because you have a new book out.
Yes, anything you want to share.
Anywhere. If you go to bdaniellewatkins.com, it's usually not up to date because I do way too much. However, it's stuff there. I'm on social media, but I'm kind of trying not to be lately. But B Danielle Watkins anywhere. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. If you type in B Danielle Watkins on Amazon, my new book will come out. My notebook line will come up. My IMDb, you can go to B Danielle Watkins there as well. My name will get you to anything to me.
Okay, Tanya, your hand is up.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to ask, what are you working on now? You do so many things.
What's
going on?
We just finished a family feature last week, I think. Yeah, we just finished our first kids movie last week. It's in post-production now. I am on a mental break currently to get my life together, so that we can move into going into our last quarter of the year productions. So it's getting ready to go down per usual. And
Your per user ain't like nobody else.
Per usual.
Per usual, it's getting ready to go down. So right now I'm trying to keep a mellow space in head so that I can be ready.
You also are doing workshops and conferences?
Yeah, I think I just did one. I just did,
Yeah,
did one.
just did one. Oh, well,
And
you
yeah,
did us,
here.
but I mean, you have your own.
Now, yeah, when people hire me, I go.
Fabulous. Also, where can people subscribe to I Elevate?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. iElevatePlusTV.com. I can put that in the chat. And then I Elevate.
Oh, I have one more question though,
No.
but we're done. And oh wait, we'll be over time if I ask.
Yes, so we would be over.
Susan, may I use 1 minute of your time?
Yes. What do you think, Harvey?
Okay, the 1 minute is, what do people get wrong about their pitch? Like when they're sitting in the room with you, other than confidence, what is like the utmost thing that they
Like
just
two
get
things
wrong?
that they just get utterly wrong.
Honestly, confidence is the first one because they're trying to read you. So if they don't pick up on your energy, they start to back down. And willfulness for reactions, because like if I ask a question, like if you say, you know, oh, my main character carries a sword, and I say, well, why don't they carry a gun? And that trips them up. Being able to defend their work is something people are unable to do as well.
I'm glad I never pitched to you.
But well, that's something to write down. And thank you so much for taking time off of your mental break to come on our conference. We appreciate it very much. Y'all check out B Danielle Watkins, and all the wonderful things that she does.
Of course, you guys have an amazing day.
You
You
too,
too,
bye.
Yeah.
All right, and our next speaker is Susan Crawford.
And I'd like to say this one thing before we get started, which is so today we have talked about reality TV, we talked about scripting, we've talked about publishing a book, pitching a movie, but you know what we have not talked about? How to get started writing said book or anything else. So Susan is going to tell us a bit about that. I think that's what I wrote, right?
Yeah, I said I know nothing about producing movies, and you said just just say something about writing your book. So I have learned so much today about other aspects after the book is written. And yeah, did you say this was?
I just want to say we're learning something about scene stealing right now because that kitty is adorable.
Very much so.
Absolutely.
This is Harvey. He's a he's an adoptee from the shelter, COVID kitty. And I really didn't think he was going to put in an appearance, but it's too much trouble to yank him off the chair and make it. That would really be a scene. So I guess he'll stay. But thank you. Yeah, so I will talk a little bit about writing my book and my journey, and hopefully there will be something in this that will be helpful to you in your journeys. Although I'm not sure they're on the, taking the same journeys, but anyway. I have always written. It was always my escape, my therapy. I had the requisite dysfunctional family growing up. I just always wrote. I wrote through divorce and remarriage and through kids, and I would write in many jobs. And I would write sometimes in the middle of the night when everybody was finally asleep. I remember at one point we had an apartment where there was a lock only on the bathroom door. So I would push down the toilet lid and write in there with everybody pounding on the mom on the door. So I always loved writing. But it wasn't until my daughters, I have 3 daughters, until they were out of the house that I got serious about trying to publish. And I had no idea where to start. So I asked the people I worked with. I was at that time grading GED essays for the state. So my coworkers were all sort of Englishy people. And one of them knew a man who had a critique group. So I joined it. And Harvey, would you please consider getting down? Okay, so critique group was the first thing. And through the critique group, I learned about the Atlanta Writers Club, joined that. And they had, so many good authors, and twice a year, a conference. I went to the conferences. I actually had one agent who was representing a book called Samuel's Wife that I'd written, but then she wanted to go online only, and I was holding out for traditional publishing, so we parted ways. I continued writing. My critique group that had started out being mostly women and then changed into a mix, had turned into, at the end, or at that point, me and a few men. And they just did not get what I was writing. I was writing literary fiction. There's no action, your characters never do anything but sleep with each other and walk around talking about their experiences. And so I said, okay, the next thing I write is going to start with a dead body. It wasn't like I had anybody waiting for my writing, so I could pretty much do anything I wanted to do. So I started The Pocket Wife, and it was really fun. I had read all the Nancy Drew books, but that was about it as far as that genre. I really didn't know what I was doing in that genre, but I finished the rough draft within about 6 months. The critique group guys loved it. They no longer cringed when it was my turn to submit. And I went to a conference, turned it over to an agent, Jenny Bent, and she read the first 20 pages and said, oh God, I love this. Send in the rest, quick, before you even leave the conference. So I thought, oh, this is wonderful. So I didn't hear from her. And when I nudged her about a month later, she said, oh no, she no longer loved it. But that if in the future I could see my way clear to rewrite it from 2 points of view, the point of the view of the woman who's having the manic episode, and and the detective who is on the case, because the woman who's having it, I'm sorry, we have had enough here. Having the manic episode. Not sure whether she looks like the likely suspect for having killed her neighbor. And she can't remember. She was drinking with the neighbor to the extent that she really can't remember what was happening at the end of their argument. So she wanted me to write it from the point of view of that character only, with maybe the detective as a sort of balancing person. So I did that. Then I turned it back to her. She said, this is much better. I like this, but you still have to change this, and this. So I rewrote again, sent it back. I'm pretty quick at rewriting, but the lengthy process was waiting for her to get back to me. And sometimes I would wait a month for her to get back to me and then say, no, this doesn't work. So it was very frustrating. Finally, she took it on, submitted it within 12 hours. There was an offer on the book. And I was just, for some reason, I was terrified. I don't know if it was my Catholicism or my not making any money as an ESL teacher or what it was, but I said, oh, I'm not, and it was a good offer. It was a 6-figure offer. And I said, well, is there something else we can do? And she said, yeah, we could put it up for auction or go into auction. And I said, yeah, let's do that. So she said, are you sure? And I said, yeah. Of course I wasn't. I had no idea what I was doing there either. And it did go to auction. There were 7 houses bidding on the book. And in the end, it turned out to be HarperCollins, and that was the initial offering publisher. And it was a 2-book deal. So that's my story. It doesn't end there. Unfortunately, we did not ride into the sunset happy and successful, because unbeknownst to me, if you have a best-selling novel, and this novel did sell all over the world, different contracts all over, and did very well. The second book, however, did not do quite as well, and nor did it have anywhere near the promotion as the first book. I find now that I'm back to square one. You know, I now have another agent, but it took a while to get this other agent. I have 3 books that I've written, mostly during COVID, when I was kind of really flipping out. So it was really therapy for me. And, you know, that publisher has said no, she didn't make enough on her second book. I think we're going to pass. So well, that's my story. Hopefully that's not the end of the story. I'm hoping that this agent will sell it to a publisher. Everything will be great. But I do have a few tips that might be helpful. Or did you want to interview me? Do you want to?
Go ahead and get those. Yes, we can't wait to have those.
I can't wait to have the tips. I was waiting on the tip.
I can't hear either one of you.
The tips.
Give your tips. Can you not hear me?
Are you not able to hear any of us, Susan? They want the tips.
Oh, no, now I can't hear anybody. Oh my God. Well,
Can you hear us? Susan? I don't know.
Oh my word. All the audio is gone. Can anyone hear us?
Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes.
I hear.
I hear everybody.
hear you.
Seems like
I
Susan
can't
can't hear
you,
us.
though. Let's see.
Maybe we could get her to go off and come back on right quick.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
But I can't hear you. I bet the cat stepped on something.
Oh, God.
Well, I guess I'll just keep talking.
Give the tips.
Of course, I was going to say, are there any questions? But all right, well, here's some tips. Write. If you're writing a book, all these other things are great. Making connections are important. Social media, which I'm not so good at, is important. Attending conferences, all of that is really important. But the most important thing is to write. And you can always catch up on the other things later, but the writing is the most important thing in my experience. When writing, it's nice to have some kind of goal for yourself. If not, now everybody's muted. To have some kind of goal, even if it's a paragraph a day, 500 words a day, 1,000 words a day, to just keep at it and not to worry too much about editing until you're finished. Just let it all sort of flow out. And you can always go back and edit it later. Critique groups are great, I think. I have found them to be very helpful. In fact, I wouldn't have written the Pocket Wife had it not been for this kind of obnoxious man's comments. But be careful with your critique groups. Find one where the people are, well, the people are all going to be different, but where the general vibration is, they're behind you, but they're not obsequious. You know, you don't want somebody to say, oh, that's wonderful, I love it, love it, love it. Because although it's great for your ego, it's not so helpful for your growth as a writer. But neither do you want somebody who's going to say, well, I would do this, this, and this, because then they're sort of vicariously writing their own book through yours. I've run into that. Another rule of thumb is if 2 or more people have the same issue with my submission, then I'll go back and look and see maybe I screwed up something. But if it's only one person out of maybe 10 and it's a subjective thing, I might not take it seriously at all. Let's see. Good query letter is important. And I know that's covered online in different areas. And what I found to be helpful, if you can go to a conference and really have a face-to-face meeting, preferably without your Maine Coon cat, it's nice because then you sort of get a feel for who the person is, and more importantly, she gets a feel for who you are and can ask questions. Are you flexible? Could we change this? I'd like to see you redo the first 20 pages and then send them back, that sort of thing. And you see if you might kind of fit together well. If it's somebody you know you're not going to get along with, you might want to keep looking. And believe me, they will keep looking if they think there's a reason not to go with you. If you can't go to conferences or even Zoom conferences, which are really prevalent now during COVID and the COVID-2 or whatever this is we're in now. If you're just going to send in a query letter cold, I suggest looking for agents who want not just the query letter, but pages along with the query letter. That way you're sort of skipping a step. So you're not sending the query letter and then they get back to you and say, well, maybe you could send the first 10 pages because you've already sent them the first 10 pages. So that saves a little bit of step. A couple things I found to be true that sort of are contrary to what I'd heard was, one of them was no, and the last speaker kind of touched on this, no doesn't always mean no. And even if it's not a no, we really like this, but we have somebody else we're representing as the same kind of thing. I heard a sound.
Oh, yay. Can you hear us? You can hear us. Yay. We wanted to know what your website is and where people can buy the book.
Oh, the book. Yes, the book is Well, I have two, the pocket wipe.
Mhm.
And it's on Amazon. It's on, you can get it through Barnes and Nobles, most bookstores. And my page, my webpage, which is susancrawfordnovelist.com.
Okay.
You can buy it there too. And here's the other. This one is The Other Widow, is the other book.
Thank you so much,
Susan.
Susan.
You had great tips. We enjoyed that we were yelling tips the whole time and you couldn't hear us, but we're so glad you could hear us and you gave us the wonderful
I am
tips.
so sorry about that. Like
No,
I said, I saw a little X over here that Harvey must have, he has very big paws and he must have just stepped on
Had to
everything.
make our life though. He was like, why are you talking to this screen?
I guess my time is up.
Yeah, so thank you so much for,
Okay, I'm gonna put my contact information in the chat, and I'm so sorry for all the confusion. And
no worries. And thank you so much for ending out our conference. It's been so lovely to hang out with you guys for all for these 3 hours and learn all this information. We hope you learned something too. And y'all all keep in touch. And just remember, y'all,
Wisdom is all around you if
you're open to finding it and accepting it. So peace and love from Winona and Jade, because yes, I'm going to say it both, and all of our people that came to the conference. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
I